I am very sorry to report that Islam is still very seriously ill. You might be aware, battered and bruised across the world, plastered to an extent. It's just a bunch of plasters these days. Unfortunately, though, the union strike of emergency workers hasn't really helped. Islam needs to have some advanced medical treatment, and because we haven't got the ambulance staff working in the UK, we are unable to help at the moment. And this is precisely why, instead of focusing on the provision of medical help for Islam today and over the next few sessions, we are going to focus on clearing a bit of trash, because the recycling places and the trash places, what you call a tip in the UK, are actually open. And so today, we'd really like to see if we are able to clear out plenty of Islamic rubbish and take them to the tip. For anyone who is aware of Islamic apologists, you might have heard of terms such as the science of the hadiths and so on. And if you look at some of the videos that some of the teachers of Islam have recorded in their studios, you might have seen plenty of books in their background. And this is precisely where our focus is going to be today. The science of the hadiths, they claim. And I'm going to ask the question, is that really true? Is there a science behind the hadiths? If you are a Muslim, especially, please stay focused, because this session is not just a one-way live stream. You should have the ability to follow the arguments that I make and be able to join me live and challenge particular aspects of the arguments I try to make. So please stay focused. This is Islam under scrutiny. And today we are going to look at the science error, the anti-science of the hadiths. Like I said, for those who are familiar with any Islamic apologists, you might have heard the waffling on about the science of the hadiths. I'd really like to, in a moment, show you some pictures of these Islamic apologists with videos grabbed from videos made from their study areas. Please take a look and you will understand what I am talking about. Especially zoom in to their backgrounds and check the kinds of books they have in their backgrounds. Arabic texts, hundreds of those books, and you would be led to think that perhaps they have read a lot and they have sort of applied science and are scientific in their thinking and approach even today. So take a look at this. As I said before, hundreds of books, hundreds of books. So anyone who is a bit new to this area of Islamic apologetics or polemics might genuinely be led to think that these guys are really well read. But the question always in my mind is, at Speaker's Corner and in several other places, when there is vigorous scrutiny of Islam, why do these people just run away? If they are so read and if they are so scientifically minded to an extent, they have the science of hadiths, why do they run away? And that is going to be the exact area that I'm going to address today. So, like I said, if you are a Muslim, stay focused. In the comment section, at least in the Operation Stephen channel chat, you should see the link for link for the StreamYard that I'm using today. So you should be able to join me at an appropriate time at the end of my presentation of my arguments, and you should be able to explain to us why the arguments I am making are inaccurate. So please stay tuned. Hadiths. What are these hadiths? Anyone who is familiar with Islam, of course, might know about the Quran, which is the primary source material, or so they say. And then the secondary source material, the material which is very next to the Quran, according to their view, although most of Islam actually comes from the hadiths. Most of Sharia actually come from the hadiths. And so I don't know why they say this is second only to the Quran, because this seems to be like it is the primary source material for them. In any case, they say it is second only to the Quran. What are these hadiths? I'd like to show you a definition, two versions of that. One, sort of the version for those who are, brainwashed to follow Islam, and those who don't want to open their eyes and so on. I'm going to show you a first definition of the hadiths, and then I am going to suggest to you, and that is where you really need to stay focused. I am going to suggest to you what I believe is the true definition of hadiths as I see it after researching a bit already on the hadiths. So please bear with me as I share a document with you in a minute. Okay, what are hadiths? Version 1 for the brainwashed. Version 1. A collection of traditions containing sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, which, with accounts of his daily practice, the Sunnah, constitute the major source of guidance for Muslims apart from the Quran. So, you have Quran, and then you have a collection of sayings of Muhammad, which is very useful in imitating him, the Sunnah, imitating his example of how to be a Muslim on a daily basis. That's the definition for the brainwashed. Now let's look at the definition I am going to present to you. If you are a Muslim, stay focused carefully as I go through this, because my primary argument is going to be around this definition. Please stay focused. In reality, how do I see the hadiths? The hadiths are a collection of supposed sayings of Muhammad and others involving characters who, or events which, are not fixed in history, which avoided even the remote chance of scrutiny in a psychologically and physically coercive environment by brave and unbiased people, either by being late or by not being widely circulated. Let's look at the salient parts of this definition. They are, of course, supposed sayings of Muhammad, whoever he was, whenever he lived, if at all he lived. But they have three remarkable properties. And my main argument for hadiths not having science but actually having anti-science, the three main points are these. I am repeating them. The hadiths bring in characters who or events which are not fixed in history. In other words, they are not credible historically to an eye which is not part of a brainwashed person. These characters are actually not validated to be historical characters, and the events which are described again are not validated to be historical events. But these hadiths were prepared, were written down, were spread in an environment which was physically and psychologically coercive. So you can see why people might have written them in the first place. And also after these documents having been written, you can see why people might have tacitly given their nods to them without bringing up any objection, because they were prepared in an environment which wasn't really conducive. You either say yes sir or you lose your head, that sort of an environment. And most importantly, the third point, these hadiths avoided the remote chance of scrutiny. They avoided completely the remote chance of scrutiny by some brave, qualified and biased people. Like I said, it's a coercive environment, but still one would hope that there were at least some people who were brave, qualified and unbiased, not caring about the fact that they might die if they challenged these writings. But even if those people were to exist during that time, these hadiths avoided even the remote chance of scrutiny by these people by using one of two tricks or both. They were either very late, and therefore those who could really scrutinize did not have access to them, or these were written well after the people who could have really scrutinized existed, or they were not widely circulated. In other words, no one knew about them. They were just like secret documents written. No one scrutinized, and therefore they survived to be used by later generations. This is my definition of the hadiths. Before going into describing or dealing with my problems with how Islam presents hadiths as science, or the putting together of hadiths as a scientific process, before I venture into challenging that area, to open up, I'd really like to give you a sample hadith. If you're a Muslim, the hadiths that I'm going to show you are going to be very new to you for obvious reasons. And I'm going to use an example hadith that I have got access to, exclusive access to, as of today. I'm going to show you the hadiths that I have access to, and I'm going to challenge you and say my hadiths, in terms of historical credibility, are very much the same as some of your hadiths, like Sahih al-Bukhari or Sahih Muslim or whatever else you have in your mind, depending on whether you're a Sunni Muslim or Shia Muslim or whatever else. The point is, my hadiths are very similar. In other words, If you are brainwashed enough to think that the hadiths you have are historically valid and have been scrutinized in a very scientific manner, you should accept my hadiths too. If you don't accept, you should explain to me at the end when I open up the discussion for challenges. You need to explain to me why my hadiths are any inferior to your hadiths. You need to explain. And that is why I'm going to present the example hadiths to you. Ladies and gentlemen, especially Muslims, for the very first time in the history of mankind, I'm going to introduce to you an exclusive collection of hadiths that I'd like to publish to the world today. And that is Sahih al-Tamili by Arul ibn Belusami. If you're wondering who this Arul ibn Belusami is, that's exactly me. Arul ibn Belusami. Sahih al-Tamili. Of course, that gives you a clue as to where I am from or who I am ethnically. But let's go through the 4 hadiths or 3 that I have collected after painstaking efforts, going through all sorts of different places in the world, learning for myself the local cultures and so on. I have collected 3 precious hadiths, very, very precious. I'm sure you're going to agree with me. And I'm going to read to you them, and I'm going to explain to them how they are exceptionally qualified. The status that they occupy are super duper good. Let's go through them one by one. The first hadith, the old reference is hadith 1, and new reference that I have is hadith fresh 1. Thiruvalluvar reported, I heard Allah's messenger saying, please forgive me for misleading the world. The Quran is just junk. Bin it. Bin everything else which my enemies have collected as my sayings. One thing I know, Jesus Christ is incomparably more precious than me. Being God and being able to heal the sick, raise the dead, etc. Follow him and get saved. I, on the other hand, apart from knowing that Jesus is God, am truly illiterate, who doesn't even know that you can add 1 and 1 together. The status of this hadith, as per my scientific analysis, very similar to Sahih al-Bukhari. The status is super Sahih with an unbroken chain. The actual chain is not, I can present here. It comes from Thiruvalluvar, who heard from the Allah's messenger firsthand, going to A1, who was his student, and A2, who was A1 student, A3, who was A2 student, A4, who was A3 student, and so on and on and on, coming all the way up to A300. This is one chain. Bear in mind, just one of the many chains that are available. If you need details of more chains, you can email me at info@operationstephen.org, and I can give you more details. Like I said, super Sahih with an unbroken chain. As a matter of fact, there are 2 more hadiths which are slight variants of the hadith that you've just seen. Hadith 2, Thiruvalluvar reported, I heard Allah's messenger saying, please forgive me, the Quran is just junk. Bin everything else which my enemies have collected as my sayings. One thing I know, Jesus Christ is incomparably more precious than me, being God and being able to heal the sick, raise the dead, etc. Follow him and get saved. This one in particular is super duper Sahih with an unbroken chain and multiple attestations. As you can see, the isnad that is the primary isnad here is a bit different from the previous one, and therefore it deserves to be a different hadith. The person from whom I heard it myself was A350 in this case, as opposed to A300 in the previous case. Multiple other chains are available. If you want more information, please email. Hadith 3, a slightly different variant. Thiruvalluvar reported, I heard Allah's messenger saying, one thing I know, Jesus Christ is incomparably more precious than me. Being God and being able to heal the sick, raise the dead, etc. Follow him and get saved. I, on the other hand, apart from knowing that Jesus is God, I'm truly illiterate, who doesn't even know that you can add one and one together. Superlicious Sahi. It can't get any better than this. It's not, as you can see, available here. Multiple other chains are available. More information upon an email request. As a matter of fact, it's not just the sayings that I have collected. It's also that I have a friend, a very close friend, who has collected biographical works on the narrators who you see in the isnads here. Each and every narrator, Thiruvalluvar, A1, A2, A3, and so on. We have plenty of information. We know exactly who they are. We know exactly what quality they possess. And I've listed a few things here. Like I said, this is a very scientific approach. No other religion in the world has this science. No other religion is comparable to our great religion, where Muhammad says, give up on me, follow Jesus Christ. And if I were to give you details of the narrators in the chain, please carefully note, painstakingly compiled, after exceptional level of effort, all narrators have 4K memory. And as a matter of fact, they are to be upgraded to 8K memory rather soon. They are impeccable in character. Only one wife, no muta marriages, no takia nonsense. As a matter of fact, they can't even spell the word L-E-I. Oh, sorry. E-I-L. Oh, no. Sorry. L-I-E. They can't even spell L-I-E properly. They fast 3 days every week. They can say these hadiths front to back, back to front, right side up, and upside down. And any other combination you request of them, as long as you request appropriately. They never have their lunches before their breakfast. Exceptional narrators. We know exactly who they are. I mean, Christians, I can't believe that, what kind of gospels they have. Do they have 4K memory? Did Mark have 4K memory? Matthew have 4K memory? Our guys had 4K memory to be upgraded rather soon. Exceptional. This is the religion I invite you to follow. Now, on a serious note, my dear Muslims, if you have been watching, my serious claim here is going to be, what you find here and all the information I've given to you about narrators and so on are very, very similar in relation to how the hadiths today, including Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and so on, are advanced. And what I've given here as information is what they actually call the science of the hadiths. Exploring how the isnads are and coming to a conclusion as to whether the hadiths are trustworthy and so on. Very similar. Challenge me otherwise. I'm going to be very open to challenge, and I'm going to give you a lot of time as long as you stick to your point, or stick to the point, the topic at hand. Challenge me. But my challenge is, this is the quality of hadiths that you have. If you accept Sahih al-Bukhari, if you accept Sahih Muslim, or if you accept one of the hadith sources of Shia Muslims, you need to accept Sahih al-Tamili by Arul ibn Velusami. If you don't accept this for a particular reason, I'd like to find out how come you don't accept this, but accept the same kind of material you have in your possession. I'd like to find out genuinely from you. Now, Before I go further, essentially what I'd like to do is I'd like to present an overview of what I'm going to cover in the next, let's say, 20 minutes or so, or 25 minutes perhaps. I am going to present to you what true science of collecting information about a historical event or a person actually looks like. I'm going to present you true science on a serious note. I'm not kidding right now. It's on a serious note. I'm going to present to you true science, and I'm going to present my own model, which I've been sort of putting together over a period of time, which still needs refinement, but I'm going to present to you that model. That is true science. And I'm going to explain to you why that is true science. After having done that, I am going to explain to you, give a bit more background into why the so-called science used in hadiths is really anti-science, and it's very similar to Sahih al-Tamili. I'm going to go through the details of them with you. And then finally, I'm going to return to this challenge where before I open up the floor for people to come on board, I'm going to say, give me the details as to why you won't accept my hadiths while you accept the other hadiths that you had in your possession. Or at the least, deal with the specific challenges I raise against your Islamic hadiths and debunking what you call science as anti-science. So, let's, by way of introducing my model, a true scientific model, let's look at a sort of an introductory animation right now. So you want to know how historical events and historical people could be assessed for validity, historical validity, through a truly scientific model. I've shown you a bit of animation. Let me show you a scientific scrutiny of history, true science. And this is my own model, true science. You know, let's say sometime in the past, a particular event happened. You have it here, time. This is timeline. Sometime in the past, a particular event happened. And let's say there are two specific points in the future. And let's say future from the past event, but not necessarily future to us. For example, let's say we are here at time 2, trying to scrutinize the actual event that happened a while ago. Bearing in mind, there might have been other people also who might have scrutinized before us, time 1. All right. If you focus on the event that actually happened a while ago, the event, in this particular case, my focus is on a person, not a particular event in isolation of a person, but a person at the center and an event around him, who is, of course, in my picture here is the protagonist. And the person had witnesses watching him. And the witnesses watched him and produced records of him. This is what I call the event frame. They watched him. They were witnesses, eyewitnesses. Event frame, the inner rectangle here. Now, that during that particular time, there might be many, many more contemporaries for the person, the protagonist and the witnesses. Many contemporaries. Now, they might not have watched the actual event, but given the records get public, they spread wide and so on, Contemporaries who are really keen on exploring for certain reasons may say, okay, I'd like to see the legitimacy of what is being claimed. And they may come and analyze, given the details, given the evidence they have at their hands. They, of course, aren't seeing the event live, but they would have access to all sorts of different evidence that could be produced. And they live at that time, and therefore they are closer to the event, so to say. And they may produce records. Now, the witnesses and the contemporaries, some of them might be convinced of the particular claim advanced about the protagonist. I'm calling them believers, the people in the white here. And the records that they produce are again in the white here. And there might still be people who disbelieve in what happened, and they may produce records to advance their own ideas in relation to what is being claimed. So witnesses and records in red, and likewise contemporaries and records in red. Bear in mind, just because there are some unbelievers, it doesn't necessarily mean the event or the person or the claim corresponding to the person actually did not happen. It doesn't mean that. It only means there are some people who still didn't attest to the veracity of the event, but they could still be very useful to make the case that the event actually did happen, when people of other times and people of other times actually explore the details of what happened and explore the records that are in their possession. So this is a historical model. Now, I said it's you can do the scrutiny of the history is a scientific model, a scientific process, and I said it's my own model, and that is more precisely, more than this picture. What you see here, the table, is what I care about really as the real scientific model. There are multiple tests that people could do. As you can see in the table, I have witnesses. For witnesses, the witnesses can check a few things before they are convinced that certain things happen in a particular person's time. Plausibility, verifiability, or proportionality of conclusion. Contemporaries could also do certain tests. Now, of course, because they haven't seen the event in person, they actually need to be more, let's say, comprehensive in the evaluation. So essentially the kinds of stuff they need to be doing is they need to check if evidence is available to them, availability. They need to check if they can trace back the evidence to reconstruct a particular event with a particular protagonist in mind. So traceability. They need to check if the event was plausibility. They need to check if the witnesses were a priori neutral, because that could really help them be convinced of the validity of the claim. A priori neutrality, verifiability, proportionality. They need to check if the witnesses did come to right conclusions based on information that was available to them, not some massive conclusions unjustified through the evidence or the things that they saw. Proportionality, credibility, persuasive power. They need to check how the white people, the people in the white here, were really convinced. Persuasive power of believing witnesses. They could also check the irrefutability of the unbelieving witnesses. They can check to see why people were unbelieving, and to see if the unbelieving ones did give a proper reason for their unbelief, or rather were lethargic in their reasoning. They could check all these things, contemporaries. Now, people who are from a later time like us could do a little bit more, and that is, we can evaluate what the contemporaries did. We can also evaluate what the witnesses did. So we have more information, so to say, because we are disconnected from the event by further distance. We need to do more comprehensive analysis, which is made possible if we have records of witnesses and contemporaries, especially if there are witnesses and if there are records from witnesses and contemporaries who were unbelievers at the end of their exploration. Now, I don't want to go into the details further. For anyone who really cares, my simple point is going to be, when I write my thesis on this, perhaps you can read in a bit more detail, but my simple point is going to be, For anyone who is disconnected in time from a particular event of the past, the validity of the event is still available for scrutiny as long as there are records produced by witnesses and records produced by contemporaries, believers and unbelievers. If you have all the four kinds of records that I'm talking about here, wonderful, marvelous. You can go through all the details and come to rock solid conclusions. And may I please suggest to you, my dear friends, even as we are focusing on the Quran and the Hadiths and Islam, my suggestion to you today, my commendation to you today, the history of Jesus Christ, especially the crucifixion, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ, is of the nature where you tick everything here. It can't get better. Absolutely, phenomenally, rock solid, historically, for those who are genuinely scientifically minded. And you might have heard Islamic proponents claiming all sorts of weird and nasty things. If you carefully note their claims would only be sauce, no substance. My challenge to you today, my dear friends, the Bible stands up to scrutiny like none other. Prime example of being scientifically validated historic material. Unfortunately, of course, we are dealing with Islam today and the Hadiths. So let's see what the state of the Hadiths are. Okay, let me show you a brief graphic here. I have a graphic showing you sort of the timeline of the Hadiths. I'll show you the still picture here. The timeline of Hadiths, in a broad sketch. Please take a look at things here. On the time in the past, the time sort of starts from the left and goes towards the right, and the numbers within the circles here are years after the year of the Lord Jesus Christ. Muhammad passed away 632 AD. Siratul Rasulullah by Ibn Hisham 833 AD. You can see a big gap there. About 200 years later is when the Sirah on Muhammad that we have access to was written, or the sort of the time period by which it could have been written, cut off. 846, Sahih al-Bukhari by Muhammad al-Bukhari. He died 870. People claim that Sahih al-Bukhari was produced in 846. Fine, fair enough. I don't think people produce evidence for that, but that's fine. 846. Let's go with the dates that Islamic tradition gives you. Sahih al-Muslim by Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj, 875, died. And that's the sort of cutoff period, cutoff time we have for Sahih al-Muslim, or Sahih Muslim. Likewise, you have 3 more hadiths of the 6 canonical works. Now, before I move on, please don't give in to temptation. If you listen to people like Uthman ibn Ketchup or someone like that, they would tell you, oh, we have few other hadiths which are much earlier than this and so on. Bear in mind, the challenge is they get the details on them, and you will find out that they weren't widely circulated at all. So they could not have been scrutinized at all. So realistically, in terms of availability for scrutiny, we are talking about these canonical works accepted by the Ummah in a large number and therefore was available for scrutiny. So 833, the first Sirah that we have access to extant, first Sirah. 846, Sahih al-Bukhari, and anything else is later. 200 years passed between Muhammad's passing and the dates that we have, the earliest dates we have of records on him. So, the person who you are seeing on your screen might look familiar. He looks like an educator, like a teacher, looks professional, and so on. But in reality, he is a laughing stock, because look at the picture he shows you here. He says that some stuff was said by Muhammad and that he has plenty of evidence, plenty of chains of narration that preserve what Muhammad said, being taken into sort of the future to be noted down in written material for them to be propagated onto posterity. It gives you a chain. If you should see the link of the video of the sort of the comedy session he has right at the top here. If you go through that, he will tell you stuff like, we know exactly about all the people who are here in every single chain, narrators, exactly everyone we know their character, marvelous, this, that, everything, and so on. And therefore, he says, we have a religion which is incomparable to Christianity and so on. That is what he would say, because he does not have a clue as to what science is. Because the idea that he is advancing here before you is not reality, it is fantasy. So, let me show you an animation to make my point clear. The fantasy that Uthman ibn Ketchup advances is going to show up in your screen. I'm hoping the animation works this time. All right. It seems like it didn't work this time also. So I do apologize. But that is something like this. Islamic fiction, the fantasy. He says there is Muhammad at the left, the hadith writer, Sahih al-Bukhari, or whoever else, al-Maliki, or whoever else he has in his mind at the right here. And he says, we know exactly through whom particular sayings came to our possession. It went to A, it then went to B, it then went to C, it then went to D, and then finally Sahih al-Bukhari noted this down in a book which we have access to. If you want to know the kinds of people that A, B, C, and D are, wonderful. Don't worry, we have a wonderful set of biographies about every narrator there is under the world, or in the world, under the sky, that you need to get to know about for you to be really confident that we are talking about a properly scientifically attested hadith. But bear in mind, the reality doesn't look like something like this, but it actually looks like this. There is a supposed Muhammad. We don't even know if he existed or not. There's plenty of evidence to question the picture of Muhammad we have from Islam, whether such a person existed or not. Plenty of questions, but I'm not going to focus on that today. Let's pretend Muhammad existed in the way Islam claims him to have existed. When Sahih al-Bukhari wrote down many of his hadiths, the A, B, C, and D, and everyone else that he had in his mind were being written down or were being mentioned for the very first time in the history of mankind, or were only mentioned by people like Sahih al-Bukhari slightly before him in their hadith works, not outside of these. So these A, B, C, D only live in the hadith world of Harry Potter, not anywhere else. And so you can't really put them in a timeline like that, because we don't even know who these people are. We don't even know if they ever lived. We don't even know if they ever lived, actually where they lived, how long they lived. We have got no clue. Except, of course, Uthman ibn Ketchup would come to your rescue and say, we have biographies on these people. And he gives names. Sounds marvelous with his Arabic, which, of course, to an English speaker might sound a bit funny and so on. But let's be serious. Sounds marvelous. He gives sources, biographical works on these narrators. So why am I complaining? The reason I'm complaining is, note carefully the biographical works that he gives you and find out some details on them. Do a preliminary analysis. And what you would find them is, they at times even come after the hadith writers. In other words, even the hadith writers don't tell us who these people are. How much worse would people who are talking about A, B, C, and D, or writing biographies on them for the very first time, who live after al-Bukhari? How does that work? But that is the marvelous example that Ibn Ketchup has for you. So that is the reality. The reality is, there is no connection whatsoever from the time of Muhammad to the time of the hadith writers. You can choose, like I said, if you want widely circulated hadiths, which are the better options I recommend to you when you challenge me, especially, you get a 200 plus year gap before those people are mentioned for the very first time. If you want to make use of less circulated hadiths, my challenge to you is, they weren't circulated enough for anyone to have verified about these people A, B, C, and D. So that is the reality, my dear friends. Now let's move on, and I'm going to make four specific points, four further points. Once I have painted the picture of the historical framework, which I have right now, I'm going to make four specific challenges undermining the usage of the term science in relation to hadith. If you want to use the term science somewhere near the word hadith, the only word that you need to be using is anti-science, not science. Hadiths are perfect examples of how anti-science works, and that is what I'm going to explain in the next 5 minutes or so. Like I said, hadiths are late writings. Late writings. So the question is, crucially, if hadiths are going to be used in your daily Islamic life, sunnah of following Muhammad, how come no one cared to write them down earlier on? Now, I've heard some silly answers to that. So please don't bring the often repeated, oh, we have to crystallize the Quran first in the writing form before we can get on to the hadith, because they had that particular argument as massive holes. So please don't try, but if you want to try, please go ahead. Very late recordings were not satisfactory at all. Because they are late, even though Sahih al-Bukhari was widely circulated, or at least more widely circulated than a couple of other previous writings, or supposed previous writings, the point still is, no one who could have scrutinized the veracity of the people A, B, C, D, the veracity of the claim that they did sit and learn from Muhammad, one after another in the particular way that has been suggested. People who could have scrutinized did not exist anymore. So therefore, these hadiths escaped scrutiny altogether. Now that is, of course, a very massive point, even if the environment was very conducive to challenge. But bearing in mind, Islamic history is a history where you had compulsion of religion on a daily basis. You only need to read Surah 3, Al-Imran, for you to get to know details of that. how much psychological and physical compulsion people were subjected to. So, laid source, unscrutinized, even the very little chance that it could be scrutinized given the very coercive environment, it avoided because it was very late, or it avoided because it was not in circulation properly. Challenge number 2, obnoxious claims. Obnoxious claims. Now, an alert here. Alert for Muslims who want to stay loyal. Sleep. Or just shout Allahu Akbar. Or stay away. Please do any one of these three, because you're not going to like what we are going to go through right now. We are told that, for example, in the case of Sahih al-Bukhari, in the case of al-Bukhari, we are told that he heard 700,000 hadiths. He went around the world for 16 or so years and collected 700,000 hadiths before he scrutinized everything, applied his anti-science, and got to his 7,000 with repetitions, and around 2,500 without repetitions. That's the claim made. Can you believe how silly the claim is? I'm going to show to you in a second. I'm going to bring up my calculator for you. If you don't like science, if you don't like numbers, please hide your face right now. Shameful. All right. I present my calculator to you. One of the basic tools in science works hard against you, my dear friends. I'm hoping you now see the calculator that I'm displaying. Let's try and work out some numbers. 700,000 hadiths that he collected. I mean, I don't know how long he spent on each hadith. But given the fact that it is claimed that it was fairly complex analysis, lots of science doesn't even exist, apparently, I would like to think that he spent at least 30 minutes per hadith. At least, I'm sure. I'm not including time that he took to travel and whatever. I'm not including any of that. At least 30 minutes per hadith. Sorry, let's see. How many minutes did he spend in his analysis? 21 million minutes on 700,000 hadiths before he can produce what he finally produced. 21 million minutes. Well, how many days? How many hours is that? 21 million minutes is divided by 60. 350,000 hours. Okay, let's say in a typical day, he worked for 10 hours a day. Well, for someone who has been traveling a lot and not even taking into consideration the travel distance, of course, he didn't have the flying cow or donkey or whatever that someone else had. And so the point is, he should have gone through some painstaking walking here and there, or maybe camel journey here and there. So this is fairly generous, 350,000 hours. Okay, if he spent 10 hours a day in his research, 10 hours a day in his research, how many days is that? 35,000 days. Okay, how many days do we have in a year? Just let's keep things a little bit round here. Let's say 350 days, not to worry too much. 100 years. Well, wait a second. For him to have scrutinized in the way he is claimed to have scrutinized, even if he spent only half an hour and no time to travel at all, working 10 hours a day, painstakingly, he needed 100 years. But Sahih al-Bukhari, the history says 16 years is what he took, apparently. Can you see what obnoxiousness we are facing here? My dear friends, Islamic tradition is a laughing stock. If not for the fact that people are dying and going to hell when they follow Islam, you can run a comedy show for years and years and years with what Islam has to say about its own tradition, and also has to say about morality or the lack of it. Muta marriages, this, that, everything. You can run a comedy show about all these things. If not for the fact that we are talking about serious things in life. In other words, the introduction that we have about Sahih al-Bukhari, by the way, I didn't make up the figures there. It is the official figures you get. And I'm going to show to you, by the way, to make this point, to confirm that I didn't pick up numbers out of thin air, but I was using Islamic traditions numbers. And I'm also going to use the resource that I'm going to show to you to make my third point. Point number one, late, therefore avoided scrutiny. Point number two, obnoxious claims. And just to make sure that you understand that I didn't use some fantasy numbers there, I'm going to show to you what the official claims are. So I'm going to use let me share my screen again. I use the example of Sahih al-Bukhari. Let's go to sunnah.com, not my Christian website, it's Islamic website of repute to give you hadith. Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay. And at the top, you have an introduction to Sahih al-Bukhari. So I'm going to get more information, i.e. expand on the version of what happened. Sahih al-Bukhari is a collection of hadith compiled by blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's ignore those details. You can read that later on. If you have access to internet to check out this YouTube video, of course, you'd have access to internet to check out this website, sunnah.com, Sahih al-Bukhari. Get information, the introduction, expand details. And it says, you can see here, Imam al-Bukhari took a period of 16 years to gather the hadith and to write the Sahih. 16 years. And to do that, where did he have to travel? There was no oral tradition, by the way, before Ibn Kichab confuses you again. No oral tradition, we established last time, no oral tradition even for the Quran, and we have evidence even from the Islamic tradition about the hadiths, no oral tradition. So he could not go to a reputable source. He had to wander around. Where all? Syria, Egypt, Kufa, Basra, Baghdad, everywhere. Of course, we understand also earlier that he was in Medina and Mecca and so on. So he had to wander from pillar to post to this to that and so on. So we are told, we don't know if it's true or not, but that's what we are told. To produce hadiths in 16 years. What did he do? Sahih al-Bukhari consists of 7,000 hadiths without repetition, around 2,000. All this sifted from around 700,000 that he came across. You can refer to other sources on Islamic tradition to get that figure also. So my point is, my dear friends, obnoxious claims. Now, let me move on to my share screen. I should really have someone helping me to display these things. I do apologize. But anyway, let's go through this. Okay, what's my third point? The writer's criteria. Sahih al-Bukhari had his own criteria, and his own criteria is sort of claimed to have been, wonderful science and how Muslims introduce a scientific approach to collecting stuff and so on. Let's really see, after the obnoxious claims and after avoiding all sorts of scrutiny, to try and see if indeed the approach that he had was scientific. So let me go through a couple of points here. I'm going to ask a couple of different questions, and I'm going to read through some details from sunnah.com. How does one establish the chain when most people were not available for even an interaction, let alone scrutiny? Sahih al-Bukhari goes around Mecca, Medina, everywhere. He doesn't meet anyone who was in the chain apart from the last guy. Even if he did do what he claimed he did, or even if he did do what others claimed that he did. Only the last guy. The rest of the guys, he didn't even meet. He couldn't have met because they were gone, most of them. So the question is, how did he even establish that there was such a chain? Remember, I said Ibn Ketchup would say A, B, C, D, but when Sahih al-Bukhari goes, he doesn't see any of A, B, C, and whatever else. He just sees the last guy. So the question is, how did he find out about the chain? How did he establish that there was a chain? We will find out when we read sunnah.com, his science in this case. And the second one is, we also need Islam, the hadith, the science of, or anti-science of hadith also includes qualitative judgment on the narrators. How did he come to the conclusion when he hasn't even met them, most of them, in person? We'll check that out also in a minute when I share with you the website sunnah.com again. All right. Okay, so if we go through this, methods of classification. Imam al-Bukhari imposed conditions which all narrators and testifiers in the hadith chain must have had met before a hadith was included in his book. All narrators in the chain must be just. Yeah, which narrator? You're not even going to meet them in person because they're dead and gone. How are you going to establish that they were just people? Can you imagine, my dear Muslim friends? Just imagine for a moment how many people who you know of from your friends and family and so on, who you can say are always just. Anyone? How many could you ever say, I know that they haven't committed any unjust thing at all? Can you even testify to that degree? In reality, unless you have some sort of a supernatural power. So question number one, the answer he would find would be very unscientific, very subjective, not objective at all. Dead people he is going to talk about, or he is going to assess. Point number two, all narrators in the chain must possess strong memory, whatever that means. And all the muhaddithin who possess great knowledge of hadith must agree upon narrators' ability to learn and memorize along with their reporting techniques. As an exercise, please go through one of these isnads in full, and then find out how many names even ring a bell to you. In other words, we are talking about some Tom, Dick, and Harry that no one knows of in history and whose names are only mentioned. God knows if they even existed or not. Some random names are mentioned in these isnads, works of isnads. And then, apparently, Sahih al-Bukhari comes to a very, very exceptional qualitative judgment that their memory, impeccable, strong memory. Do you ever use that term in real life, strong memory? Is there anyone of you or someone who you know who you can say has strong memory? Do you know of someone who has never forgotten anything in life? What is this strong memory? What does this strong memory mean? To use that term Is that even scientific? This is Harry Potter stuff and worse. In reality, in Harry Potter, you wouldn't find words such as strong memory, weak memory, and so on, because what is strong, what is weak, no one knows of. And this is why Sahi al-Tamli actually said they had 4K memory. If at all there was strong memory, 4K memory was the best of that. And that is going to be updated to 8K memory rather soon. Best of memories. If this guy is right, Sahi al-Tamli is right. Okay, third. The chain must be complete without any missing narrators. Well, for Sahih al-Bukhari, there is no chain. He is only looking at one person. If at all, he was looking at anyone, assuming he was telling the truth, which God knows was the case or not. If at all if at all we trust Bukhari, he does not get to see any chain. He gets to see only one person. And he is going to say there is a chain behind that. How did he come up with the idea of the chain? Who did he get information from? Okay, I understand. He asked that person who says, I am the great guy who learned from this great guy and who learned from this great guy and so on. Well, if I was living at that time and if I wanted some money or whatever else, I would say, yes, I'm a wonderful person. I know 100,000 sayings which I have memorized from such and such and such and such. But don't worry, none of those people exist. Just ask me. I will tell you if I'm saying the truth or not. Okay, tell me if you're telling the truth or not. Okay, I say I'm telling the truth. That's it. Sahih al-Bukhari now records that. Scientific, is it? This is laughing stock. And you have been told for a long time that this is science. My dear Muslim friends, wake up. Wake up before it's too late. And finally, it must be known that consecutive narrators in the chain met each other. Yeah? A met B, B met C, C met D, and so on. How does Sahih al-Bukhari know? Well, apparently he worked out when they were born, when they were dead, and if there was an overlap, he concluded that they met each other. Really? Well, my life overlaps with the life of King Charles, but I've never met him. What is this nonsense? I haven't met most of the people whose lives overlap with my life. Most of them I haven't met, only a tiny fraction. And how is anyone else supposed to know who I have met? How is anyone else supposed to know just by looking at my life time period? How are they supposed to know that I learned from a particular guy? How? You can only come and ask me and assume that I'm telling the truth. Assuming this is not science at all. This is anything but science. So all the 4 criteria that are mentioned here, nothing to do with science, my dear friends. So to say that Sahih al-Bukhari is a scientific work and Islam has science of hadiths and so on, wake up before it's too late. Okay, now I'm coming to my conclusion here. And before I make my conclusion, one final warning to all modern day Islamic scholars who also think they are applying a scientific method, even in assessing whether some of the work of Sahih al-Bukhari and so on are scientific or not. That's my 4th point. First point, late writings, avoided scrutiny. Point number 2, obnoxious claims at the outset. Point number 3, writers' criteria unscientific. Point number 4, Islamic modern day scholars' criteria to assess something as Sahih or Hasan or Daif and so on are also very unscientific. You know why? Well, I'll tell you why. If you know anything about this chain in your mind, bear in mind, you don't know if Sahih al-Bukhari went where he claimed he went to and collected what he said he collected from the people he said he collected from. You don't know. From the 21st century, none of us know. Even from the century after Bukhari, none of us would know. Even from the same century as Bukhari, none would know unless you accompanied him. In other words, in your view, al-Bukhari also ought to be scrutinized. He is also part of the chain that you need to check. If al-Bukhari says A told B, B told C, and C told D, and that is where I got from, the chain that you need to assess, my dear friends, Is A told B, B told C, C told D told Sahih al-Bukhari, and Sahih al-Bukhari wrote down. Now, let me look at Bukhari and check what I have to say about Bukhari. And any Islamic scholar would know Bukhari has plenty of holes. Lack of memory, or not just, whatever the reason might be, Bukhari has holes. Not just Bukhari, there is no single hadith collection ever which is all true, which means all of these people who are at the end of the chain are either liars or people with bad memory or whatever else which made them get their facts wrong, and therefore none of them is credible. In other words, where I began, my dear friends, the rubbish collection and recycling centers in the UK, as I understand, are still open. Please speak to the people I showed in my video earlier, your great teachers with their backgrounds of books. I don't know if they ever read those books in their lives and so on. But regardless, most of those books, most of their books need to come to the tip. Explain to them the reason that I've given you today. And my challenge, my dear friends, to you, for anyone who is watching today, is we are now going to open the floor for challenges and questions. You can join in live. StreamYard link should be available in the live comment section, Operation Stephen. And I think the other channels should also have SOCO and Revelation 22:13 should also have somewhere. I'm sure JC and Fred have done that somewhere, that you have access to the StreamYard link. Challenge me. Explain to me why you would reject Sahih al-Tamili. Explain to me. And if you do reject my Sahih al-Tamili, explain to me why, if you do not still reject al-Bukhari and anyone else, why? In the face of the 4 challenges that I've raised here, explain, defend. Perhaps there is hope for Islam, but it depends on what you have to say. My dear friends, with that having said, let me open up the floor for questions and challenges. Who is there brave enough to come online and challenge me in the specific points that I have made? Please don't rant on. Stick to the topic at hand. Hadith. Why do you think this is science? Hadith. Why do you reject Sahih al-Tamili? Maybe I'll share that with you right now, in case you had forgotten. Why you reject Sahih al-Tamili if you still don't reject Sahih al-Bukhari and the rest of the collection? Please explain to me why. The floor is open for challenge. You can go through the information on the chain I have. Isnad is perfect. My assessment is perfect. If I were to apply a logic similar to if I were to apply a logic similar to Sahih al-Bukhari, mine is better. Perfect. Impeccable. I've got nothing wrong here. Everything is perfect. Please forgive me. I heard Allah's messenger saying, please forgive me for misleading the world. The Quran is just junk. Bin it. Bin everything else which my enemies have collected as my sayings. One thing I know, Jesus Christ is incomparably more precious than me. Being God and being able to heal the sick, raise the dead, etc. Follow him and get saved. I, on the other hand, apart from knowing that Jesus is God, am truly illiterate, who doesn't even know that you can add 1 and 1 together. Why would you not trust Sahih al-Tamili? Let me paste the link I have for StreamYard. I see Abbas has been online. I did actually see someone jump onto StreamYard earlier. I sort of guessed that it might be Abbas. Abbas, if that was you, Please come join. You say I make random claims. Well, you're most welcome to join and contradict me. Please come join. Who is there brave enough to join? Please come on board. Anyone brave enough to join me? Hello, who is brave enough to join me? Please join me to challenge what I have to say. Hey Abbas, I think you are here. Are you here, Abbas? Let me add you to the live stream. 1 second.
Hello, can you hear me?
Abbas, hello.
Can you hear
I can
me?
hear you now. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. How are you, my friend? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. How are you, my friend?
By God's grace, all right. How are you doing?
There's a delay here, I think. The voice is delay. Say something. No, there's definitely a delay. Let me call back. There's a delay. Let me call back.
Absolutely. I think you're saying that you'll call back. Please do. No problem. Who wants to join online and make a claim here? So let me check. Private chat. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. While we wait for someone to come and challenge me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to perhaps I'll just give a couple of minutes before someone could join, and if no one joins in that couple of minutes, I'm going to play a little clip. I need to find out the relevant sections, but I'm going to play. Is Abbas? Hello, Abbas.
Hello, Arul. How are you?
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, Abbas. How are you doing? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better.
Yep.
I mean, before it was delayed. That was a bit of creating confusion. Yes, so let's get to the point.
Yeah.
First, your question and why I don't accept your Sahih. Sahih Tamil, I think you call it. Okay,
Yes.
so why I don't accept your Sahih?
Sahih al-Tamili, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Because your narratives are going against my word of God, Quran. The Quran is clear that this is a revelation from God, and you're saying this is junk. So any hadith says that is going to go in the junk. Then your third hadith says that Jesus Christ is God and better than Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he's God. So that's also go against Quran. Jesus is the messenger of God. word of Allah from His Spirit, but it never says it's God. God is only Allah. So all these three hadiths going against my textbook, Quran, the word of God. So for that basis, I reject it. Like I would reject any hadith goes against the Quran. And that's not my principle. That's the principles of the classical scholars of the past as well.
Okay. Okay, Abbas. Here is the challenge. To be scientific, someone like writes a document of 500 pages. Errors in some of those pages, all must be binned. That scientific approach. You can't pick and choose. Let's put it this way. If you stand in a court of law, as a witness, and if you are demonstrated a liar in regards to one particular situation, your entire witness account would be thrown out. You do know that, don't you?
Sorry, I don't know. There's a
Abbas?
breakup. Can you repeat the question again? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Sorry, there's something going on in the reception. Can you repeat the question again, please? Sorry.
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. One point and then subsequent challenge. The point is,
Okay.
Scientifically speaking, when you find a part of someone's communication not credible, then the person becomes not credible. And so, if you find one error in Al-Bukhari, all of Al-Bukhari should be binned.
No, I don't agree with that. My point here is, if you find somebody
Why not?
is deliberately, if somebody is deliberately lying about something,
I thought you follow
you know-
science.
No, I'm telling you something.
Sorry,
There's something called mistake. If
Abbas,
somebody
I'm
made
really
a
sorry.
mistake,
I think your connection is very bad. I can't hear. Abbas, I do.
just hold on.
Since
Let me move. Let me
I
go to the other room.
apologize. Your connection is really bad.
I'll
can't
mute
hear
myself.
at
I'll
all.
go to the other room. I'm coming back. I'll change the room. 1 second. Can you hear me better? No? Still bad?
Please go on. Let me see.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. I just changed the room.
Okay, so
Yeah. This sounds much better. So Abbas, you need to address my particular. You need to answer my particular question, and upon your answer, I am going to tell you why Sahih al-Bukhari must be binned.
Yeah.
And the Quran
Well,
must
I'm
be
going to
binned.
answer that.
Yeah. So my
Fair enough.
particular challenge to you is,
Okay.
if you stand in the court of law
Yeah.
as a witness, and if the court of law finds that you have lied about one thing, they will throw your entire witness account out, because you would then be a liar, not credible.
Okay.
So would you agree with me?
I heard you.
Scientifically speaking, the moment you find something not acceptable in Sahih al-Bukhari, all of Sahih al-Bukhari needs to be binned. Do you agree?
I don't agree, and I'll tell you why.
Why not?
First of all, Sahih Bukhari is collecting something from other people. That is his effort. He made his effort. Now, if Sahih Bukhari was saying the Prophet said this and Prophet said that, I heard from Prophet, and then we found out he was telling lies about that, then all Sahih Bukhari will be built. but that was not the case. Sahih Bukhari.
Abbas.
Why I heard echo? There's echo coming. That's making me confused. Ooh,
I don't hear an echo there.
I can hear an echo. I can hear my voice twice.
Okay.
Okay. I think there's. Let me call you back. Sorry about that. Let me call you back.
Yeah, sure. No problem. All right. So Abbas needs to deal with this challenge, which is Sahih al-Bukhari. If he gets one thing wrong, all of Sahih al-Bukhari needs to be binned. And if he thinks that is not the case, he needs to explain why. Because that is science. When you find something to be wrong, then the entire account becomes not credible. So to use that as the primary source without corroboration is not a good idea. I hope that Abbas would join us soon. In the meantime, is there anyone else who has the audacity to come and challenge me on the particular points that I have raised? The entire way in which Islamic hadiths have been put together is anything but scientific. It's an example of anti-science. If you want to say it is anything else, you need to explain.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, man.
You are back along with your echoing, perhaps. I when you join, I hear some.
Yeah, I can still hear echo, and that's confusing. I don't know why. It never happened before. You can hear that as well, yeah?
I don't actually hear the full echo.
Okay, anyway,
but
I'll make my
hear some
point.
interesting
I'll try to make my point.
Sure, go on.
Yeah, so my point was that Sahih Bukhari didn't say that I heard from the Prophet and I heard from the Prophet. If then we found that there was something wrong, then we couldn't trust him. What Sahih Bukhari did, Imam Bukhari would call it, he collected from other people. He tried his best to find out the most trustworthy people. They heard from their teacher. Their teacher was honest and trustworthy. So he kind of make that kind of assumptions, or you call it, or his way of collecting things, that he makes sure coming from the very solid chain of people. So he found out the natures and characters of those people. So he tried his best. Now, what we're saying is, I agree with you. There are errors in Sahih Bukhari. Actually, there are contradictions. So what we did, that he tried his best, and his best was not infallible. There were some errors in it, yeah? Like Quran is infallible.
All right, okay.
So that's why when we analyze hadith, we have to critically analyze hadith. And one more thing I will let tell you: there are gradings of hadith. Sahih hadith is not enough. Meaning, if there is a Sahih hadith comes from four.
Abbas, I'm going to cut you short there, please. Apologies.
Okay.
Now, okay. So you are saying Bukhari's main job was that he tried his best. He, of course, had ran into issues, but he tried his best.
Yeah,
and therefore we can't undermine him. Yeah, you respect that. Let us go through exactly what Al-Bukhari thought he was doing. If he fell from grace in terms of what he thought he was doing versus what he actually achieved, he is not to be trusted anymore. You are right. If his ultimate claim was, I am merely collecting, you apply your judgment, you are right. But the question is, was that what he said? I am merely collecting. Was that his claim? Or was his claim, what I am giving to you is right? And he is putting his seal of approval on his work. So, of course, you should see on the web page that I'm sharing with you right now, and with anyone who is watching right now, methods of classification and annotation. This is what the Islamic tradition says about what Imam Bukhari did. Imam al-Bukhari imposed conditions which all narrators and testifiers in the hadith chain must have met before a hadith was included in his book. Must have met. Catch those words carefully. Imam Bukhari isn't saying, I'm trying to do my best. No, he is saying, you must have met certain conditions. Let's go through the conditions. All narrators in the chain must be just. He's not saying I'm doing a best effort collection here. He's saying I'm including you only if you are just, whatever his measure of just was. He then goes on to say, or Islamic tradition goes on to say, all narrators in the chain must possess strong memory. Whatever this strong memory means, they have to possess strong memory, and all muhadithin who possess great knowledge of hadith must agree upon the narrator's ability to learn and memorize. In other words, Bukhari's interviewees are attested, according to Bukhari, by apparently a group of people who God knows who they were, and attested to be of strong memory. Only if they were attested to be of strong memory, they were included. This is Bukhari's claim of his work, not what you are claiming for him. You are not Al-Bukhari. You are Abbas Aga. Al-Bukhari speaks for himself. Islamic tradition clearly says, in regards to what Al-Bukhari speaks for himself, he says, must. The chain must be complete. It must be known that consecutive narrators in the chain met each other. I don't think he could have done any of these things. I am not going to even give him the credit for being sincere in this. But what I am saying is, this is what he is claiming, or at least this is what Islamic tradition is claiming on behalf of Bukhari. In other words, Abbas, stick to truth. The truth is, his attempt wasn't to be a best effort collection. His claim was, and that is the claim upon which he needs to be evaluated. His claim was, my work must stand up to scrutiny. Memory-wise, perfect. Strong memory. The entire muhadithin agreed, whoever they were, agreed. Strong memory. That's his claim. Deal with the claim, Abbas. Don't deal with some straw man.
Okay, I don't know why you keep repeating the same thing that that I say that, oh, you're saying he never says it's my best effort. Okay. What I said is, I believe that was his best effort, and everybody believes that. What Bukhari never ever said is, once again, it's my turn now. It's my turn now. It's my no, it's not fair. I heard you implying a few things on my behalf, which I never really said that way, where you like forcing yourself, and that's what you people do. You try to force your words into other people's mouths, and I want you to hear that. Whatever I'm going to say.
Website here? Abbas, do you see the website here?
Arul, I listen to you quite.
Do you see the website here?
I was really loving to jump when you were
misrepresenting me is not fair, Abbas. Do you see the website here?
I patiently heard you. Now you must heard me what I'm going to say.
All right. I'll give you time, and then I'll respond. Go on.
Yeah, I don't take long. It's going to take just 1 minute, 60 seconds. What I'm saying is, every scholar, whoever people do their work, they don't say, oh, you know what, this is a bit doubtful. I'm very doubtful, but I'm going to put in my book. What I'm saying is, he believed that he tried his best to what hadith should be in his books. And as we know from other sources, he has much more than that. You claim 700,000. I would really like to see where you learned that 700,000. I don't think it was that many anyway. I think it's 200,000 or maybe 300,000. I don't know. But we need to see where it comes from. But we know that he throw a lot of other narrations out. So he believes he tried his best. Meaning, in his book, any hadith to qualify if it met these principles, these criteria. Again, I'm saying that was his. He never says none of my hadiths is wrong, or you must believe it. Without believing it, your faith is not complete. He never said that. That is only for the Quran. And I will remind you one more thing. Many scholars wrote fiqh. Imam Malik was one of them. Imam Abu Hanifa. All of them said that if our word goes against the word of Rasul, Messenger, and Quran, throw it on the wall. But they said, we are writing, we trying our best. They never claim they're infallible. So this is what you must understand. Imam Bukhari also did that. That was in his best work. He tried this. He tried his best that these should be sahih, but
Okay,
he was not infallible.
Abbas. Abbas. We need to at some stage agree on at least basic facts. At the face of what I am showing you here, I am a bit bewildered that you are saying that I am claiming certain things about Bukhari, Al-Bukhari. Note carefully, I am not claiming anything apart from reading what your official source, sunnah.com, is claiming on behalf of Al-Bukhari from Islamic tradition. You use the word best. They don't use the word best. They are using the word must. Must implies perfection. Only if it is true, you can be included. That is what Bukhari did according to him. If he did not achieve what he said he was trying to achieve, his work cannot be trusted anymore. That's my key point. That's my key point. Look at the content here. I'm not asking you what Ibn Ketchup or some other sheikh or some other person tells you or tells me. Even the entire world could, when interviewed, say all sorts of things. That is not my concern. My concern is, look at Islamic tradition. I'm going to read to you again. All narrators in the chain must be just. If Bukhari failed in making sure someone was not just, what gives us the hope that he got the other cases where we think that he thought again that he was just, was in fact right? You need to explain.
Yeah.
If his standard was, this is what must be true, this is what my target is, and this is what I'm applying everywhere, and you are saying, despite him saying I have done perfect work, not best work, perfect work, and collected only the perfect things, if you are going to say some of those could be thrown out, my question is, why do you then trust the remaining where he applied the same level of reasoning or same level of filtering?
Okay, I'll answer you. First of all, I'm going to say that again. If somebody make an error or mistake, that doesn't, you don't multiply that with zero for the rest of his work. We don't. And that is exactly what hadith is. Hadith is not like Quran. Quran makes such a claim. If this is from anybody other than Allah, you bound to find contradictions in it. That's what the claim of the Quran. No hadith muhaddis makes such a claim. If you find one mistake in my work, throw it out. So we do not apply the same criteria or principle on the books of hadith. How we accept the hadith are, if anything, there are muhaddisin came after Bukhari. Yeah, many of them, Sayyuti, Khatib al-Baghdadi, Ibn Salah, they draw principles. They say what hadith to accept and what to reject. And they say any hadith goes against the Quran or Sunnah Mutawatira, we reject the hadith no matter if the chain is strong, no matter if the hadith is authentic. We reject that. And they have 5 principles they draw. I can read it to you if you want it. But what we're saying is,
No, 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 no,
you're
no, no,
saying
no.
it,
You're
if
not. You're not.
you saying it, if one mistake means we reject all of Bukhari, then if you stand by this principle, then you have to reject all the Bible, because Bible have many contradictions in
No,
it.
no, no, no,
Do
no,
you
no, no.
stick by
Abbas,
it?
Abbas, Abbas. No, 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 no,
I
no,
can prove it
no.
to you. Bible have
No, no, no. You
errors
need to
and
be
has
intellectually,
contradictions.
Abbas. You need to be intellectually honest right now. I did not even speak about the Quran yet. For you to bring the Quran in, I don't know where that came from.
To make you
Intellectual
understand.
honesty is very important. My focus is on the hadiths. I have all sorts of evaluation about the Quran. And when we do appropriate live streams, I'd like you to come on board and give your particular rebuttals or attempted rebuttals to the point I'm making. The focus right now is on the hadiths. The Bible is a marvelous book. Like I said, the best example possible of a historically valid record. I'm not going to talk about that today. My point is focus on the hadiths. And focusing on the hadiths, my point, maybe I'll rephrase my challenge to you, Abbas. Let's say two separate hadiths from Sahih al-Bukhari. Two separate hadiths. Let's say one of which you reject because it contradicts with something else, the Quran or whatever. You reject. But Bukhari applied the same, that's what his claims, not my claim, his claim. He applied the same level of filtering to both that hadith, which you are rejecting, to some other hadith, which you do not know of a reason to reject yet. But he says, I am applying the same filtering. How is it scientific where you say, okay, I know him to be a failure. I know him. He can't even keep. He can't even achieve what he aimed for, and he can't even confess that he didn't achieve what he aimed for, and therefore gave up on his claim as to how superior his work was. He is just relying upon the fact that, well, at least some of them would be found not found to be false, and therefore he'll have some reputation left. That is the logic you're using. When he applied the same level of filtering to two separate hadiths, when you clearly know he is a failure in one, scientifically speaking, you should reject the second one also. The only excuse you're giving is, so far I haven't found an excuse. Well, that is really an excuse. This guy is not credible. Throw him out.
I think you analyzed my logic totally, misunderstood my logic. Let me explain my logic again. First, my logic is this: this is a work and effort of a man. Okay, a man is not infallible unless it's inspired by God directly, like our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was. He was not inspired by God, so he is not infallible. That's one point. Secondly, when I analyze hadith, I do not reject hadith for the sake of rejecting. I don't. Absolutely not. If it's something totally against Quran, simply, what somebody says, oh, Prophet Muhammad was a liar, for example. He lied somewhere. That I found he's the best of the examples. He's a mercy to the mankind. He's a prophet of God. He would be lying. I would reject that hadith. Totally, completely reject that hadith. But there are hidden defects in the hadith. You can find it. If I found any hidden defect, then I will reject the hadith. And I can give you some examples if you want. But I will not reject hadith
No, no,
for the
no, no,
sake
no,
of
no, no,
rejecting.
no, 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 no.
No,
First of all, you haven't been scientific. Let's choose a simple example, Abbas. If you choose a simple, maybe I'll bring up a hadith of your choice, and I'm going to ask you, how exactly are you applying your scientific method to, when you know that Bukhari has got errors elsewhere? Explain to me how precisely you come to the judgment that the things that you accept. So if you please choose a particular hadith of your choice. Do you have any favorites from Al-Bukhari?
Well, something that contradicts with each other. First of all, something that contradicts, I'll reject it. And I can give you a
No, no, I'm
hadith.
asking for an example of something that you accept.
Or something that I accept. Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
can give you... one second. I think it's in Bukhari and Muslim both. So because it goes with Muslim as well, so I accept it because in both.
Well, the blind can't lead a blind. The point is, let's establish that Bukhari is not blind to begin with. Just because you get more names in, it doesn't mean they become people who can see. Do you see what I'm showing here? Narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's messenger said the prayer of a person who does hadith is not accepted till he performs the ablution. A person from Hadaramout asked Abu Huraira, what is hadith? Abu Huraira replied, hadith means the passing of wind. Do you accept this? Do you reject this?
I don't see any problem in it.
No. That's not the question. Do you accept this? Do you reject this? In other words, you know what you're saying, Abbas? You're really saying, I haven't got a clue.
No.
I haven't. You're really saying.
Allah's messenger said the prayer
really
of a person who does blow wind is not accepted till he performs the ablution. A person from Haramat asked Abu Huraira, what is hadith? Abu Huraira replied, hadith means the passing of the wind. I believe this is a true hadith. Yes. You know why?
How?
Because
Explain.
it's a sunnah mutawatira. Sunnah mutawatira means it is well known, well spread out. Every Muslims believe in that. So something which is doubtful or something not right, the whole ummah will not be practicing that. That's why we call sunnah mutawatira. Something comes with tawatur.
Okay.
Something comes with continuity.
Sunnah mutawatira. So it is like you exactly said, well known. So explain to me what the chain is for this hadith, or tell me what the chain is for this hadith. It must be well known.
Well, the chain says that in Arabic, Hadathna Ishaq bin Ibrahim al-Khazali, Kala Khabarna Abdul Razzaq, Kala Khabarna.
Where are you reading from?
From the Arabic.
Are you reading the hadith?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, wait a second. Don't read from anywhere. Don't read from anywhere. You said it is well known. That somehow the Ummah accepted it because it's well known. So don't read from anywhere. Reading anyone can do.
That's why I say
anyone who knows Arabic can read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm reading.
Yeah, but I thought you said this is a well-known narration.
Yes.
Well-known chain.
No.
Yeah,
it's a well-known practice. I say well-known practice. Sunnah. You know what sunnah means? Sunnah means practice. I say sunnah. It's a well-known practice, sunnah. Sunnah mutawatira means some practice which comes with tawatur, which comes with continuity.
Abbas. So this is true. You know what the logic you're using is, this is true because we do it. That's your logic.
No, because no Muslims disagree.
No, that's what you're saying. This is true because all of us do it. That's what you're saying.
Let me explain to you what I mean.
I'm asking you why you think this is true. That's what I'm asking you.
Let me explain something to you. I don't think you think that way, what I'm going to tell you right now. You're thinking when Bukhari came 250 years later, he wrote ahadith, he compiled the book. In those ahadith, he says there are 5 prayers. And you find in the hadith, they say there are 5 prayers. There's a Fajr prayer, there's Zuhr prayer, there's an Asr prayer, there's a Maghrib prayer, there's Isha prayer. 5 prayers. So he writing 250 years later. And nobody write that before. Maybe Imam Malik write it 180 years after, who was 70 years before Bukhari. Maybe he wrote it. But
Abbas, can I please request you? Can I please request you to stick to the example we have at time?
I think you know where I'm going, and you don't want me to explain because there are a lot of people.
No. I know where you're going. You're essentially going to a place where we don't have. I want you.
It's very important.
No. Stick to the hadith. It's very important.
Arul, if you don't let me talk, then we can't talk. If you don't let me talk,
I'm going to let you speak.
Interrupting me.
I'm going to let you speak.
I have to explain something.
Abbas, I'm going to let you speak.
What I said.
Abbas, I'm going to let you speak, but I'd like you to speak about one thing at a time, because you may go to one example to another.
So you want me to just speak what you want me to? So I cannot explain when I said Sunnah Mutawatira what I meant. You don't want me to explain that because you will not understand when I say Sunnah Mutawatira. You will not understand that. That's why I was explaining that to you.
I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you what Sunnah Mutawatira is. Now I'm asking you this particular hadith that I'm showing you right now. Why do you accept it?
I'm
And you
sharing my
said
knowledge with
because
you.
this is wide, because you said because it's widespread practice. In other
You know
words,
what?
what you are saying is this is accepted because it is accepted and everyone practices. The question I'm asking is not why is everyone practicing it. The question I'm asking is why is this narration true?
I don't think you really are interested to learning something or want answer. You actually interested in the wrong answer. That's why I'm assuming. You
No,
don't.
I'm interested in
No,
the
no.
scientific answer.
Okay, then
I am
you
interested in the
allow a
scientific
Muslim.
answer.
You allow a Muslim to explain. I don't know what you calling scientific. I don't know why you're using this term. I didn't even use that term once. You keep forcing that scientific,
The,
right?
the, the,
And
the,
I
the topic for today, Abbas, I don't know if you realize that the science or the anti-science of hadith. I'm not saying you used it. The point is many proponents of Islam, of the validity of hadiths and so on, use this idea called the hadiths. We arrive at the hadiths through a science, and they say this is so spectacular that Islam is so special in this regard that none of the religions can even come closer. This is the claim,
how
and so
you
the
say
focus
science
is
in
on the
Arabic?
science.
Arul, how you say science in Arabic?
How does it matter?
No, it's very important. If you don't know that, then
Why?
let me tell you what
Why?
you call
Why?
it.
Why?
I'll
Does
tell you
science
what.
mean something else in Arabic or what?
No, no, you don't even know that how you call science in Arabic.
No, 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 no. Listen to me. Listen to me carefully, Abbas. No, 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 no. You need to be honest now. I did not say, I heard someone say science in Arabic. No. In English, in English, I can even show you links if you want. In English, Islamic proponents, while speaking in English, claim that the hadiths are obtained through science. It's a great science, the science of isnad and this and that. Science.
I got it.
They give
Let
a
me speak.
picture. One second. No, they give a picture that the hadiths are obtained through a scientific method, not some Islamic Harry Potter method, fantasy method, but scientific method. That is what they are conveying. And so I am like,
I'll answer.
I'm asking
I'll
you to
answer.
stick to that. Well, I didn't ask, I didn't finish my question here. I'd like you to stick to that scientific. I know science. I do science. I know science. And I'm assuming you can stick to science also. I don't want your Islamic explanation. According to Islam, Islam is true. I agree. And that's why you're still a Muslim. I agree. That is your reasoning. My questioning right now is science. Why is the word science involved here? And I'm using this example that I'm projecting here on the screen. Sahih al-Bukhari 135 is the example I have. And I'm asking you, given that you agree that Sahih al-Bukhari has got all sorts of things wrong elsewhere, why do you think, scientifically speaking, apply the hadith, the science of hadiths, why do you think this is right? And don't tell me this is right because we do it. Don't say that. That's not science.
You finish. I really want you to finish because I'm going to start now and I don't want to interrupt me.
Well, explain
Thank
to
you.
me why you accept this.
No. I'm going to explain so many things that you're going to learn something, inshallah, today.
No.
It's my turn.
Abbas, no. Abbas, no. You
No,
need to
really.
explain why
Arul, it's my
you
turn.
accept this hadith.
Oh, Allahu Akbar.
No. Wait, no. Abbas. I'm really sorry. You might be upset. I'm really sorry. I am a Christian.
I'm upset that
You
you're
are
not letting me
Muslim.
speak. I'm frustrated right
I'm
now.
going to let you speak.
I'll wait.
But don't tell me all sorts of other things. Tell me why you accept this. Go on.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to start. Science in Arabic we call ilmul hadith. Very easy, ilm mean knowledge. So science in short means knowledge. Even in English, science means knowledge. Okay, science of maths, yes, knowledge of maths. Science basically means knowledge. That's what I call ilmul hadith. So don't go like too much scientific biology, all these kind of things. Don't go into that. It simply means knowledge of hadith. So how we get to the knowledge of hadith, they show us how we get to the knowledge of hadith. So when I was saying earlier, sunnah mutlata, what is that? When Bukhari was writing 250 years later, there are 5 salahs we do, Zuhur, Asr, Maghrib, whatever, and how to do wudu, ablution, washing your hands, face, and all that. People were doing it for 250 years already. You don't think that they suddenly found out, oh, thanks very much, Mr. Bukhari. You just told us we never knew that. We never knew that. We didn't know what we were doing before. So what I'm saying, Sunnah comes above Hadith. Sunnah Mutawatira is above Hadith. If Bukhari was never written, people were still doing Hajj every year. They were still doing fasting every month, 1 month of the year. They were still doing 5 salahs every single day, even no Hadith ever written. That's why I say this practice, people does it. So this, we don't need this Hadith to tell us when we fart, we have to do wudu again, because people are doing it. That's why this practice of Ummah become above Hadith. So if there's any confusion, if there's any doubt, for example, the age of Aisha. Shias don't believe in the age of Aisha. They don't believe Aisha was so young. Sunnis do. So it means there is a conflict in the Ummah. This is not a mutawatir. So then there's a debate and there's an argument, and we have to critically analyze those hadiths. This hadith, everybody practices, so we don't even need this hadith to believe what we're doing. So this actually hadith is agreeing with the mutawatir sunnah. You get my point?
I get what you're saying. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's historically accurate, and that's why I'm going to I'm displaying a picture here, and I'm going to ask the question again. Sahih al-Bukhari, I read to you an example about passing wind or whatever else nonsense that it writes about, or he writes about. You are saying that it was already a practiced thing. So you're painting this picture, like this picture. You're not painting a picture of the chain, but you're painting a picture of the fact of implementation of Sunnah in the life of people even before Sahih al-Bukhari wrote it. Now,
yes,
I'd like to know how you know that was already practiced.
Because I'm just saying that to you. If Bukhari came along 250 years later and he says, if you fart, then you have to do wudu, and people doing something else beforehand, there will be challenges against him and says, no, what you're writing is totally wrong, because we are doing in the time of Prophet. People are doing since the companions' time. We are doing all that all the time. Where you get that from? So what Bukhari need to do it here is, if it comes from at least minimum four narrators, then it becomes mutawatir. And this, what you show is akhbar ahad, come from one narrator.
Abbas.
Bukhari would be in big trouble if he just make a claim which was against the practice of the people were. It's not
Abbas, did you even think for a second before you gave that answer? Did you realize that same reasoning would apply even for the hadiths that you are rejecting today?
For example, which one?
Whatever you are rejecting today,
I reject the age of Aisha.
If you think Sahih Bukhari has hadiths which are to be rejected, did you not think that the Ummah of that time would have rejected those things already, and Bukhari would have been in a bit of a problem already? How come he didn't have a problem at that time with any of his hadiths, but you think there is a problem with some of the hadiths today and not all of it?
Because there are some hadiths that have hidden defects. It's not always obvious to all the people. I tell you why. We are living in a generation.
No.
We are the most informed generation ever to live.
Abbas, 21st century, if it is obvious to Abbas, Ummah of the 1st century Hijri or 2nd century Hijri or 3rd century Hijri, you think wouldn't be obvious? What are you talking about? What secret knowledge do you have that they didn't have?
Arul, do you agree? We are the most informed generation ever to live.
I don't know. I don't think.
What? We have
Muhammad,
libraries in our hands.
Muhammad, who is he? What is the early evidence on Muhammad? We haven't got a clue.
No. Oh, okay. Now you're changing the argument. I'm changing the debate now.
Well, I don't want to change the argument. Abbas, I don't want to change the argument. I want to go back to my original point. If you think we are more informed than the people who actually saw those things unfold before their eyes, I don't agree with that. My point simply is, I am trying to understand how Abbas thinks Sahih al-Bukhari about breaking wind or something is true, because it was already an established practice. I'm trying to ask you, How do you know it is an already established practice? And you are saying, it's an already established practice because people didn't reject it at the time of the writing. But my point is, people didn't reject any of it at the time of his writing, apparently, and that is why we have it today. And so you shouldn't be rejecting any of it. All of it should be practiced at that time for it to have been preserved for you.
Difference in breaking the wind is that even the Shias believe that. Shia follow that. Who doesn't believe in Bukhari? They reject Bukhari's many hadiths.
Don't bring in Shia. Just stick to the. Why are you bringing in Shia? How are they going to help you?
I'm talking about all the Muslims.
How are they?
Look, Shias did not read Bukhari. Shias did not follow Bukhari, and
you remind me.
They also follow the same
of my childhood days. Abbas, you
like
remind
to talk
me
over me. I mean, you ask me a question
days.
and I'm answering you. You say how I come to that conclusion. I'm giving you the answer, and you don't like the answer.
No. I'm saying don't bring in Shias. Stick to
I'm
Sunnis.
going to bring whoever I believe I need to bring, because for me, Shias are ummah.
That only muddies things up. You haven't yet given me an answer. You haven't yet given me an answer for the question. When all ummah of that time accepted all of it, according to you, I don't know. I don't really know if they accepted or not. You're claiming they accepted. Sahih al-Bukhari was available to them for scrutiny and so on. If all ummah accepted al-Bukhari at that time, who are you to reject? That's challenge number one. But if you're still audacious to reject some of it...
You're wrong. I said Shia doesn't accept Bukhari. You say all ummah.
No.
Shias are part of the ummah. I don't take
them
out of the ummah.
Abbas, are you now saying whatever Shias reject, you reject also? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when all ummah accept. No. What I'm saying, when all ummah accept, that become very strong, very strong to oppose it.
But very strong. Okay, now we're talking about very strong, very weak, lightweight. What are we talking? Do you use these terms in science?
No.
Very strong.
This is exactly how you analyze the hadith.
In science, something is true if it is true.
For example,
I'm going to go back again. The quest of knowledge.
All Muslims believe the Quran has 114 chapters. Without any doubt, all Muslims believe that. All Muslims practice that.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Even Muslims didn't believe that. No. Don't get into that. We'll deal with that later.
No one can make it 117 or 113 or 111 as you claim.
Abbas, about the Quran, about the history of the Quran. About the Quran, about the history of the Quran, we're going to talk about later. I believe the entire narration that Islamic tradition gives is erroneous.
Telling me right now.
Erroneous. I'm not talking about that right now.
Okay,
Hadith.
I'm just giving you an example.
I'm trying to understand if you are saying the selection of hadiths is scientific. I'm trying to understand if that is the case. From all that you have said so far, you are saying we believe in it because we practiced it at that time. And my point is, I asked you, how do you know you practiced it at that time? And you said, I know we practiced it because none of them was rejected at that time. Now, if my point then is, if none of that was rejected, then you should take all of Sahih al-Bukhari. You should have exactly the same evaluation of what people had at that time.
Words in my mouth. I didn't know you're putting words in my mouth.
You said
I'm saying all ummah practice this even today. So if there was
today, I'm not asking. Today you can do all sorts of Harry Potter stuff. I'm not asking. Today you can do Harry Potter. I don't.
What that's supposed to mean? What that's supposed to mean?
Well, what I'm saying is, of course, today everyone thinks of a few different things. My question isn't what people are doing today. My question is why people believe certain things to be true from the time of Muhammad. That is my question. My focus is on the time of Muhammad.
You're talking about hadith.
My focus is right now on this particular topic. My focus is on the time of the writing of the hadiths. That's where my focus is. Okay. Why do you think that is true?
Do you know what is mutawatir hadith?
Well, as far as I understand, essentially something the hadiths with a sound chain of narration.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
That's my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
My God. And you're doing this program about the hadith, challenging hadith. Allahu Akbar.
Well, I'm doing this program because I bring in an insight into how to evaluate, how to apply a process without being religious. You are coming in as a religious man and blindfoldedly giving me
Okay.
Islamic
Let me tell
ideas
you
with
how
no
wrong
idea
you
of
are.
science.
Let me tell you how wrong
No
you are
idea
about
of
the mutawatir.
science. This is the problem.
Yes, yeah. I'm
Abbas.
telling you what mutawatir means. I ask you what mutawatir means, and you
No
say
idea of
you
science. Do you see where you're coming
none.
from? No idea of
What?
science. Only the idea of Islam.
You like to talk
That's
over
where
people,
you're
don't
coming
you?
from, Abbas.
You like to talk over, don't you? You think that will make you right?
Okay, go on.
Okay, now let me
Explain to
speak.
me.
Let me speak.
Go on.
No, let me speak. My turn. Please let me speak. So mutawatir actually doesn't mean the strong chain of narrators. It doesn't mean that. Mutawatir means the hadith that comes from minimum 4 different narrators. Minimum 4 different narrators. That's called mutawatir. Yeah. It doesn't mean one chain strong narrators. So we analyze hadith. If some hadith is mutawatir, come from multiple different people, then what chance is there that multiple people are saying the same thing? If they're saying the same thing, that means that is more chance of to be true, because people living from different regions saying the same thing. The Prophet said that means very high chance is to be true. If it comes from one chain only, one, that is, then we have to critically analyze it. It could be mistaken,
Okay.
could be fabricated. So that's why I'm saying, when I read mutawatir hadith, for example, one mutawatir hadith is this: anyone lie
Which
on my
one?
behalf, Prophet says, anyone lie on my behalf, his place
Yeah.
is in hellfire. That comes from
Okay.
5 different narrators.
Okay, let's get that. 1 second. Which one is that? Do you have reference?
It's in Sahih Muslim. I
Okay.
hope you don't
Let's
mind
get
us
Sahih.
using Sahih Muslim. Yeah?
No. As long as you choose your, I don't mind which
Yeah,
is
because for me,
which
Sahih
which
hadith
hadith you
is
use. As
Sahih
long
hadith.
as you use
Yes.
one and stick to it, I am fine. Okay, let's stick to it.
Yeah.
Sahih Muslim. Okay, let's. Which one? Give me the reference, please.
I have to look. I think it's in the beginning of Sahih Muslim. Okay. Sorry, give me a second. I'm looking.
No problem. No problem. Please take your time. Is that your family in the background? Send my regards to
Yeah,
them.
it was my missus. Yeah.
Okay, I do apologize. She might think some
No. She just
crazy
entered the
stuff.
room. Yeah, I was a bit
Okay.
loud probably. That's why she came.
Okay, sure.
You want to say something? Carry on. Just give me a minute to look.
Yeah, you sure. No, if you as long as you take one hadith as an example and explain to me or give answers to particular questions I'm going to ask, I'm happy, and that is what I'm on about right now. I presented particular challenges I have about hadith and the history behind the hadiths, and I'd like you to give me
Yeah, now I'm going to show
rebuttals.
you I'm going to show you about the mutawatir. What mutawatir means. Mutawatir means come from
No,
multiple
no,
chains.
I completely. I'm happy with your definition. Let's put it that way. I am aware of the fact that when I use the term sound, I actually meant where you have parallel narrations or corroborations in your mind. And so, if you have the number 4, I don't mind. I don't mind with the number, with the definition. If you given, it might be 5, might be 6. I don't care.
Yeah,
Now,
minimum
I'm
4.
happy
That's
with the
what
rough
the scholars
definition
say.
of mutawatir. I'd like to go to an example, and I'd like to ask some specific questions. That is what I care about. I'm not into this nitpicking, because I think most of the time the Islamic proponents or apologists spend time on silly things, not the actual anti-science. They talk a lot, throw in a lot of numbers, throw in a lot of names, and think and give an impression that they are being scientific. And that is where my focus is. Give me any example. As long as it's an example you are comfortable with, I'm happy.
I'm struggling to find it. Do you know what I said when science means knowledge? That's what it simply means. Knowledge of
Well,
hadith.
you needn't have gone to Arabic for that. Science means the same thing in
Ilm.
English. The
Ilm
word
is
English
knowledge.
science comes from. Now, the word science comes from the English word, the word corresponding to gnosis, knowing, knowledge. And science today, dynamically, is the field of the quest of knowledge. And so you don't have to go to Arabic for that. The science didn't come
That's
from
right. So yeah, Arabic say ilm al hadith, mean knowledge of hadith or science of hadith, whatever you want to call it. But it says ilm al hadith. Why I can't
doesn't
find the hadith?
what North Korea's official name is?
North Korea's?
North Korea's official name.
No, I don't know.
Some democratic, some stuff of North Korea. That doesn't make North Korea democratic. Everyone knows there is no democracy in North Korea. So just because you use the term knowledge or science along with the word hadith, it doesn't make it scientific. My question is not on whether you use the term or whatever. My question is on, is science, is there a critical thinking that goes behind how you assess what could have been historically valid versus what is not? So please choose an example, Abbas. We're waiting. Time is ticking. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. Choose any example. What are you looking for?
I was just looking at mutawatir hadiths, and there are very few mutawatir hadiths, just over 100.
Well, very unfortunate, isn't it?
No. That means mutawatir
Even
hadiths,
according to your claim.
No, it's true. Mutawatir are just about, some say 100, some say 200, which means those are the really hadiths we cannot reject. The rest we can analyze and reject as well.
Okay, yeah. Choose one of them. Let's go through and see if they are any credible.
As far as you say the science of hadith, I can give you a course of scholars who make criteria.
No. Don't give me quotes. I don't care. I care about a particular example. I'd like to see how far Abbas's science goes. That's what I care about. Quotes, no one cares about.
You put me on the spot. I just can't find that hadith right now. I'm looking for it.
Well, Abbas, you know what? This is a bit ridiculous. You are a Muslim and you have a sunnah. You follow the example of Muhammad. And you said there are well-known, sunnah, whatever.
Yeah.
You do this, you do that. Well-known. It is apparently too well-known that you can't even come up with an example here today.
No, I can't. I just can't find it. This is in the book. There are, as I told you, there are about 4 or 5 times the same hadith is repeated. 4 or 5 times.
Okay. Tell me. I can do a Google search for you. I can ask Prophet.
But anyone lie on the Prophet's behalf, his place is in hellfire.
Okay. Anyone lie
It should
on...
be in the beginning of Muslim.
Okay, well, Sahih al-Bukhari 109 says that, if you want.
Yeah, was it 10?
109 Sahih al-Bukhari.
Okay, put it there then.
Are you can you see Sahih al-Bukhari? Am I sharing the right? Okay, yeah. Okay. Sahih al-Bukhari 109. Let's go. Okay. Okay, Abbas. Narrated Salama. We have it on the screen right now. Narrated Salama. I heard the Prophet saying, whoever intentionally ascribes to me what I have not said, then surely let him occupy his seat of hellfire. Yeah? Are you happy with this?
Yeah. That's right. That's the one.
Question. Explain to me why you think this is true. Why, when I say this is true, I don't mean the theological truth in your mind, but explain to me why you think this particular saying actually came from one person to another, and then finally recorded faithfully by Sahih al-Bukhari in a reliable manner, that you take this to be a reliable record.
So I was saying that it comes from minimum 4 different sources, 4 different people.
Which sources?
Yes, I'm going to give you the other ones as well. So this is I think 2 hadiths before it. This is like book 3 hadith 51. So if you go book 3 hadith 49, but it comes from Same thing, but come from Abdullah ibn Abu Zubair, where he says, who tells? Prophet says, who tells a lie against me, then let him occupy his seat in hellfire.
Yeah.
Same thing, yeah?
So,
So two people,
yeah.
this Abdullah bin Zubair says that, and what's the other person says that? What's the other person? Salama, narrated by Salama. There are two people. Now there are two more I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you they come from 4 sources. So it becomes mutawatir.
Oh, good. Okay. Show me. If you want to, but actually, this is good enough for me to actually make my next point. Did you want to show 2 more, or?
No, what so you have to agree with me. They come from 4 sources because I want to show you they come from 4 sources. When they come from 4, it become mutawatir. So 4 people are saying the same thing. That is very difficult to challenge that hadith. This is how the principle of the scholars is. Why so many people are saying the same thing? That means that's
fantastic.
true.
Okay. Okay. Let's get back to my example. Abbas. All right. So I'm going to get back to Sahih al-Tamli.
Okay.
And I'm going to tweak my example a little bit to ask my question. Okay, so you must be really fortunate that you're living in the time when I'm living, because this is a new hadith which is being introduced to the world. Okay, do you see the example here? Sorry, not example. Sorry, I don't
reject them. I will reject them, and I told you.
No. Can you see? I'm slightly tweaking. Actually, there was a typo when I prepared. When I put this on sort of the computer. You see where it says Thiruvalluvar reported. It actually should have said Thiruvalluvar 1, Thiruvalluvar 2, or maybe some other. Tom reported. Mick reported, John reported, and whoever else. I can make the copy paste this a few other times if you want. 5 different sources say the same stuff, almost the same stuff. Okay, the stuff that says Jesus is more precious than me. Muhammad saying 5 different sources says that. Well, I can even make it 10 different sources say that.
Right. Okay.
I just need 2 more minutes. If you give me 2 minutes time, I can make it do that.
No. I can reject you right now. If you give me 1 minute, I'll tell you why I reject it. I'll tell you why.
Well, this is what you did. You just went through.
It fails one massive principle, which is going against the Quran.
Like what?
You see? Quran say you saying reject Quran. Quran is rubbish. That's what you said, didn't you?
No. Wait a second. You said mutawatir. No. You said mutawatir. 5 separate. I don't remember the exact words you used, but you used something. You conveyed a message to an extent. You said 4 different people said the same stuff. How could they lie or something like that? How could they be wrong? Something like that. Yeah.
I know what I said.
4 different sources saying the same. I'm saying I can copy paste this 10 different times. 10 different. I don't care what the Quran says. 10 different people are saying the same stuff. They heard it from Muhammad. 10 different people. Tom, John, Mick, Mike, 10 different people. Copy paste. It takes 2 minutes to do that. The question is, 10 different people are saying the same stuff, and therefore it must be true.
Okay. Do you remember when I came in your stream, the very first thing what I said? You forgot about that. You just remember what I said. Now you have to carry all whatever I said in context what I'm saying. What I said the very first thing I said. Why I reject the hadith?
So no. So in other words, just because 10 people say some stuff, it doesn't become true.
You are playing with your eternity. It's not a laughing matter.
Abbas, no. I'm not playing with it. My eternity is fairly secure.
What did I say?
I serve my living God, Jesus Christ. Abbas, stick to the point here. Stick to the point here, please. So do you agree that just because 10 people say the same stuff, it doesn't become true? Do you agree?
Arul, again, selective memory. For God's sake, what did I say when I entered the stream? First principle to reject the hadith. What did I say?
I don't know what you're on about, Abbas. I'm asking you a simple
you know
question.
exactly what I'm on about.
Do you agree, Abbas?
I said anything contradict the Quran, we reject it. That was the first principle.
That's not the question
After
asked.
that, when I talk about mutawatir, that is question. That's already settled. Again, you're
The
talking over.
question, I'm not asking about the Quran at the moment. I'm not asking about the Quran. I'm asking you a
But you're
simple
forgetting
question.
that principle.
If 10 different people say the same stuff, do you agree it might still be wrong? Do you agree?
Wrong question, and I'll say what the question should be.
No, but do you agree? Just
No.
because 10 people say the same stuff, it doesn't have to be true. Do you agree?
You're wrong again. Listen to me carefully what I'm saying. The first principle, if it goes against the Quran, doesn't matter if 1,000 people said it, we reject it. But that was settled already.
I'm not asking, Abbas, I'm not asking.
So
the
if it's in the
reason
Quran,
you
and then
use to reject
after
something.
that, if 4 people said it, we take it.
I see. So anything that the Quran doesn't talk about, if 4 people say, it must be true. That's your logic. So if I said Muhammad had or if I said Muhammad's house was painted pink, the Quran doesn't reject that. And if I showed you 5 paragraphs in my document, you would say it is true because 5 people say that.
No, but now, how do you know that? I will ask you, how do you know that?
Well, because I've written this. What do you mean? How do you know?
No, no.
I've went through. I've gone through all sorts of different places. I can't tell you where I went through. Do you know where Bukhari went to?
Oh, Arul, like a child, I have to explain that to you. These are
telling
us.
Explain to me. No, how am I any different to you? How am I any different to you from Bukhari? Do you know him?
Are you
Do
claiming
you know where he traveled?
Are you claiming that you met Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?
Well, I never claimed to have met a non-existent person.
All right. So whatever you're going to say, it has no credibility. We're not going to believe whatever you say.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about right now. Now, my simple point is, Abbas, you said a moment ago. A moment ago, you said, if it doesn't go against the Quran, if four people say something, it must be true because 4 people have said that.
Which 4
that
people?
Is what you said.
Which 4 people? Companions. 4 companions, not 4 people. 4
Which companions? Which? Whoa. Wait. Which companions? Let's. Which? Who are the companions?
That's what I was showing you.
Okay, let's go through. Who are the companions? Please explain. Who are the companions here?
We go back to that hadith now.
Yeah, I'm going back to that. Explain to me how you know they are companions, please.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the tab and you can explain to me. Okay. So I've come here. Explain to me how you know they are companions.
Az-Zubair, yeah? Az-Zubair, if you go by all the history, by all the scholars, everybody say Az-Zubair was a companion.
Which history? You need to be specific. Which history?
Which history? Books of Ismail Rajal. Books of Ismail Rajal.
You know when when his book was written or books were written?
So well, you need to show me. Okay. Listen.
No. Wait. No,
you have to go. You have to go what the Islamic history is telling us. Islamic history is telling us this is the companion.
No.
We only can reject that. We only can reject that if you have other sources that say he was not a companion.
I can't believe, Abbas, this is happening. I'm assuming you are a sensible man. Let's stick to logic here. Simple. You said Az-Zubair was a companion.
Yes.
I'm asking you, how do you know it? You are then quoting a book, which, if I remember correctly, actually comes from the 11th century AD. If I remember correctly. I could be wrong. We can do a quick check on that. Well after Bukhari. That's a book you're quoting right now, Biographies of the Narrators. I'm asking you, how do you know this guy is a companion? Second chance. Give me an answer.
Okay. I'm going to read you from, even if you go online, if you type this name of the person, it gives you his biodata, where he was born and when he died.
Which name?
Abdullah Abdullah ibn al-Zubair. Yeah, he was a son of Al-Awam, who was a son of Asad bin Abdul Uzza bin Qusay. All like his biodata. It says he born in 1 after Hijrah. 1 after Hijrah. He died 73 after Hijrah in Makkah. He was martyred. And who was his teachers, and everything is mentioned. Who was his teacher? Who was his parents? This is all history. Unless you show me something which opposes that, then we can say, okay, now we have to critically analyze it. We found nothing in opposition to that. Do you understand? So we take it what history is telling us.
How do you establish Harry Potter is not history?
What?
How do you establish if that Harry Potter is not history?
I couldn't care less. That's not a topic.
Well, okay.
I couldn't care less.
Okay. I'll show you an example. Close. I'll show you an example close to what we were doing earlier. Explain to me how these people. You see the source here. Remember, I said I could make this through World War 1, through World War 2, and so on. Remember that?
Okay.
Yeah. I am saying these people are part of history. You know why?
Okay.
Because I have a biography here. I have a biography.
So
don't ask me don't ask me when this was written. I have a biography here. So unless you find something contradicting what I've shown here, you should believe in this.
I can't believe you're making such a silly point.
Well, I can't believe you made such a silly point.
Did you hear that? What I said earlier? This is going against the Quran, so we reject on that base. We don't need to look at the history of a person, where he comes from, where he belongs to, who is his father. What Hadith is saying that going against the Quran. So I'm rejecting on that base.
All right.
I don't need to go into detail.
Abbas, if you want, I can give you a more realistic example. If that is what you want, if you can imagine this, please imagine this.
You failed already. Try again.
Well, the audience know what is happening here.
That's why you're trying again.
And any Muslim who is sensible, who is watching, would know. Now, I'll give you another example.
That your hadith go against the Quran, it should be Sahih.
Tom narrated. The messenger of Allah said, my house needs to be whitewashed or painted fresh this year. Please give me more money. Please send more money to Arul. My house needs to be whitewashed fresh this year. Send all your money, millions of dollars, to Arul. Tom said that Tom narrated that the messenger of Allah said that. Peter narrated, the messenger of Allah said the same stuff.
Did Tom met him? Did Tom met him?
Of course he did. I have a biography which gives you details of how he met.
I need to say that. You see, I'm a Muslim. I don't believe in hearsay. I believe in my eyes.
No.
I believe in my eyes.
Wait. I am giving you an example which is very close to what you are giving me.
I need to see it, brother. I need to see it. I'm going to analyze it.
Okay, well, I can. Okay, that's fine. I can type this for you. Just give me 1 second. Okay. I can. No problem. Right. I can type this.
Okay, as I was saying, this hadith comes from 4 companions. So
no. Please wait. Apologies, Abbas. Please. You really need to get my wonderful hadith. So please. Let's stay focused. If I let you,
I'm going to critically analyze it. You know that.
Well, you can do whatever you want.
Yes, exactly.
I quite welcome you critically analyze. I quite like to critically analyze it. Okay, let's do this. Yeah. Good. So, can you read? Okay, can you read that?
Yeah, the sound of ocean waves calms my soul.
Okay. Maybe I should make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Yeah. Tom narrated. Yeah. The messenger of Allah said.
I don't know who Tom is. I never heard of him before.
Well, I'll give you all the details. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know you're giving me, but I never heard of him.
I'm giving you all details. Well, if Sahih al-Bukhari could give you, why can't I? I'm giving you all the details. Just give me a second. Messenger of Allah said, send $1 million to Arul ibn Belusami. Yeah.
So nonsense.
Okay.
Isn't it? It's such a nonsense.
No, why? You think sending me £1,000,000 is nonsense?
Well,
What are you talking about?
Well, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam lived 1400 years ago, and you just live now. How
Doesn't
he
matter.
know you?
Is he not a prophet? What are you talking about? This is very real. Please don't say Muhammad speaks nonsense. Don't say that. Could
I
offend
never said
Muslims,
that.
you know.
You like
That's what you said.
you like to throw
Just
these
a moment
little
ago you said
insults,
that.
isn't it? You like to throw these little insults. You think you're making a point.
Well,
And
you better be careful with
I
your
feel
points,
sorry
then.
for you, what you're doing, and you're going to pay the price for that, for insulting the messenger of God.
Well,
Seriously,
I'm very sorry
I
about
feel sorry for you.
well, in all reality,
Because
actually,
if Arul, if you try to spit at the sun, you know what's going to happen to you. It's going to come back to you. So don't even try. It makes no difference to his personality at all.
Abbas. I just wish that you ponder on that point a little bit more.
Like doing what?
Well, you have made a good point. Please consider that point carefully. Now, you see those things. I don't know why this is flickering so much like that. I do apologize, but I can produce the biographical works also. If you give me just a couple of minutes, it's all it's very quick. Technology is fairly good these days. I can produce biographies fairly quickly. All right.
Okay.
Okay, you see that? If you want essentially the status of all the hadiths which I've quoted so far are sahih, just to keep things simple. You see that? 6 different narrators. I can give you the entire chain if you want.
What's your point?
Doesn't contradict the Quran. Wonderful
What's your
memory,
point?
wonderful everything else. My point is, why is this not acceptable? According to your logic, this must be true. Doesn't contradict the Quran, mentioned by more than 4 people, and shows up in a hadith book. Why is this wrong? Why is this not acceptable to you?
Okay.
I can even say, actually, the Sunnah, I can even say, at the time of the writing, the people actually followed this.
I need to see, first of all, which great scholars of hadith refer to this hadith. Why it missed out. One second. Let me make my point. Why this
now
hadith?
I thought you're part of the Ummah, and Ummah accepts. What's that?
This is the problem. When you have a half knowledge or half truth, then you are lost. You need to know the whole truth. Why this hadith is missed out from every single Islamic scholar ever. That's the big point, isn't it?
What do you mean every single? What are you talking about?
All the Islamic scholars have missed out this hadith that give $6 million to Arul.
You know what my name is? You know what my name is? You know what the title of this text is?
Arul Velusami.
You know what the title of the text is?
Science behind hadith.
Look at the title of the text. Sahih al-Tabli, Arul ibn Velusami.
No,
has
I'm
recorded
saying
this.
that.
I'm an Islamic scholar right now. I've just become an Islamic scholar.
Arul, please be serious. You're letting yourself down, behaving like that. Please don't do that. You're better than that.
No. Abbas,
calm down.
Abbas, this is exactly.
Calm down. You're talking over me again and again. Arul, don't do that.
Is.
Arul, don't do that. What I'm saying is, there are many hadith books have written in the past. Many, not only 6, but 6 has the best reputation. The 6 we call Kutub al-Sitta. Yeah. So if any hadith comes from outside Kutub al-Sitta, we need to know why this is missed out from Kutub al-Sitta. What is the reason? So this your hadith is so mutawatir. Yes, you say mutawatir, but it's missed out from those Kutub al-Sitta. So this is definitely need to critically analyze it. It definitely need to critically analyze it. Now, what I want you to do is to send me the biodata of all these narrators. Can you send me the biodata of all those narrators, their ancestors, and where they born, where they live? So we have to just critically analyze it.
It's not hard. It's not hard. It's really not hard. Okay. Abbas, I'm giving you.
I think Arul, you see, I made my point, and I am very disappointed that you don't even know the term mutawatir. I'm really disappointed. And you're talking about hadith. Seriously,
All
Arul.
right, okay.
You
Now
you
you're
asking
going
for
to run
trouble.
away. Now you're going to run away.
No, I'm
Now you're going
not.
to run
I'm
away
not.
from the
Arul,
wonderfully produced hadith work.
how can I think you need to learn,
Wonderfully
attend some
produced
classes
hadith
of
work,
hadith.
which is as good or as bad as Sahih al-Bukhari. In terms of historical veracity, as good or as bad as Sahih al-Bukhari. Anyone can write text like this. Any number of people could write text like this.
You see how quickly I
If
rejected it.
what?
How quickly I rejected it. I rejected it on the basis that it is not on the top books of hadith. It's not mentioned in there. So yeah, I
All
give you
right.
benefit of doubt. I say, okay, I still going to critically analyze it. Now you send me the biodata of all this Luke, Tom, and Dick and Harry.
Abbas,
Send that
Abbas, no, no,
biodata
no,
and
no,
I'm going to
Abbas,
analyze
Abbas,
it.
no. I think what the reason I have a clear view on the reasoning you have used, and the reasoning you've used is Islamic propaganda. That is the reasoning you're using, and all that I'm suggesting to you today is that when you come across people like the ones I showed in the video clip earlier, where they use terms like science of this, and science of that, and so on, please go speak to them and say, don't call what you're doing or don't call what you're explaining as science. Just call it Islamic propaganda. Go around Islamic propaganda, I understand. Islamic propaganda says 6 canonical works. I understand. My question is, why are these even trustworthy when you've rejected most of it? That is my question. Sahih al-Bukhari, as a matter of fact, even goes on to say, if Muhammad were to stand in front of him, he would reject him. Sahih al-Bukhari, remember, one of the criteria used is anyone with a poor memory, gone. Muhammad himself confesses in Sahih al-Bukhari that he had memory issues. Quran would be gone, thrown out of the window, according to Sahih al-Bukhari's criteria. You think you can accept that? I think you shouldn't accept that according to proper reasoning, but Islamic propaganda allows you to. So please go ahead. Do what you want to do.
You like to throw things, don't you?
What's that?
If I challenge you right now, the show the Prophet ﷺ say his memory is bad memory.
Well, I showed you last week. Please check out the live stream I did last week. It's not hard to get that. Did you want to see that before you leave?
Yes, please. Yes. Show me that hadith that say he had a bad memory.
Good. Let's look at that.
And secondly, I said
No,
you
let's
know
just look
very
at that
you know
and,
very little
let's just
of
look at that and
hadith and
see.
the science of hadith. When we say science of hadith, we say knowledge of hadith. So knowledge of hadith does
No,
exist.
you can say whatever you want to say. It doesn't
Why?
matter.
Why
You
I
can say-
listen to you, but you don't
No.
listen to me? What is the matter with you? Whenever I start, you just stop me. I could have stopped you any moment, but I let you speak. Let me speak as well. Let me clarify my point, because there are many people who doesn't know, which you probably know, but they don't. So let me say one thing, that we Muslims do not just believe that Bukhari says, I don't believe in every hadith of Bukhari because I find contradictions in it. But I believe there is bound to be hadith. There bound to be narrations of the Prophet. If the Prophet lives, he was a messenger of God. He must have guided people. He must have given instructions. He must have behaved in certain way, and people saw it and people passed it on. It happened to all famous personalities. So why Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam words are not there? Why whatever he did, why people didn't pass it on? So it doesn't make sense. So some people who reject every hadith doesn't make any sense. There are bound to be hadith and the history of the Prophet, what he did, what he said, how he walked, what he
Abbas, I don't know. I really don't know what you're talking about right now. Abbas, you're just
I'm talking about the knowledge of hadith.
Islamic. No. You're giving me the Islamic propaganda right now. You know,
what I'm saying is, I do not believe in every single hadith like many people do, and I don't reject every single hadith like some people do. Hadith rejected. I take the middle path.
Actually,
I analyze the hadith.
Abbas, do you on YouTube, is your sound not muted? Do you have YouTube open somewhere? So you're just on StreamYard with me?
Yes. I'm just on StreamYard. That's right.
Okay, because someone is suggesting that perhaps the double sound is because of.
Yeah, it's been from the beginning.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
My
Okay,
YouTube,
that's fine.
I'm not in the YouTube. I'm just on a StreamYard. Okay, the
Okay,
hadith you're going to
cool.
show me is
So
this, yes?
I need to wrap up pretty soon. So I'm just going to show you.
Yes.
The Prophet heard a man recite. Do you see what I'm showing right now? Bukhari
Yes. That's right. That's right. Okay. Can I answer you
5037.
that? Can I answer you that why I reject this hadith?
There wasn't a question at all.
No, that was the thing. You say
No,
that is a
question.
hadith, and I read
This
that
is
hadith before. That's why I said bring it out.
no, Abbas. This is not a question. I'm just saying Sahih Bukhari wanted to collect everything which was from good sources. As a matter of fact, this has multiple chains. This particular thing, I can show you, I think, 2 or 3 hadiths which say the same stuff. And he says that
No,
I
it
had
doesn't. It doesn't
law
have
of
multiple
copy.
chains.
Didn't I?
It doesn't have multiple chains. It only comes from one chain.
Can you see
Go back
this?
to the hadith. Go back the first one. Book 66, hadith 60. I'm saying it because I saw your stream and I look into it. That's why I wanted you to go into it. Okay. Right. You say it has multiple chains.
Yeah, Abdullah, Aisha. I don't know the rest of the chain. Sahih Bukhari doesn't talk about those things. Aisha, Abdullah, do you see?
Right. Okay. I'm going to show you what hadith.
No. Don't show me anything. I've read what I've read. I've shown what I have to show. You're going to give me an Islamic propaganda right now, where you're going to tell me that this is all whatever you're going to tell me that makes you think that Muhammad could never forget. Bukhari contradicts you, and if what Bukhari said was wrong, the Ummah of the time of Bukhari's writing would have rejected, but the Ummah did not reject, and therefore I take this to be true. The Quran doesn't contradict this. The Ummah would have agreed Muhammad had memory issues. If Muhammad had memory issues, well, you can say whatever you want to say, Abbas.
Let me answer you.
I didn't ask anything.
I'm going to refute you.
I really didn't ask anything.
No, I'm going to tell you how to accept and reject hadith.
No. I'm not to be brainwashed. This is clear. Muhammad had memory issues according to Bukhari.
Remember earlier you asked me how to accept and how to reject hadith, and I told you there are hidden defects in the hadith, and this hadith has hidden defects in it.
I didn't ask you this time. If you notice carefully, I did not ask you this time because the previous explanation you were giving about hadith you have accepted, the criteria you've used does not make sense to me. I produced a similar hadith in my notepad. Of course, I went by the memory because I met the person who I got that from a few years ago. But I it's a simple thing to memorize, and therefore I had memorized and I produced that before you. You rejected it. Now, and therefore I don't want your explanation as to why you rejected it.
Which one?
The one I showed you in my notepad. Give Arul, send Arul £1 million.
Oh, I
$1 million.
Yeah. And I told you why. Huh?
Yeah. So you told me you can say whatever you want to say. It doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah,
I produced exactly according to the criteria you asked for, you rejected. So I'm not looking for any further explanation from you as to why you reject some, why you accept some others, because as I heard from you, what you go by is Islamic propaganda, nothing else.
No. We go by principles. We go by principles. Arul, you don't even know the principles. I'm sorry to say that,
Abbas,
but let me teach you something.
No. Don't teach me anything else. I've known enough of what you've said. That is enough for me to say that all that you go by is Islamic propaganda, nothing else. Okay. And so I really, Abbas, I can't cope with this anymore. I can't cope with this anymore. Islamic propaganda you shove onto me and you call that science? That's ridiculous.
No, it's your words, propaganda. I say knowledge. Ilmul hadith, knowledge of hadith. And you don't even
say
know
anything you want to say. Like I said, North Korea
you don't even know the basics. You don't even know what mutwatir means. I mean,
North Korea calls itself a democracy.
You talk about hadith when you don't know the basics? I can show you this.
Abbas, I can show you this if you want. I can show you the official name of North Korea.
Do you know what mashhur hadith means? Do you know what mashhur hadith means? Mashhur.
I don't do.
You know what Aziz means?
I'm convinced. I am convinced that
all that you go by. Do you know what gharib means?
Well,
My God, Harul, how
Okay,
can you
let's
talk
do
about
this.
hadith when you you don't know ABC of hadith, you
Yeah,
don't know anything about the science
Abbas,
of hadith,
Abbas,
and
Abbas,
that is the real science of hadith.
Abbas. I am not talking about this any longer. Like I said, you are going with just Islamic propaganda. That's all.
I'm
I'm
teaching you
not
the science
asking
of
you.
hadith. You asked for it, and I'm teaching you
You're
science of
teaching
hadith.
me Islamic propaganda. I was looking for something which resembles remotely science. I do science. I can recognize science when it shows up. What you are doing is haphazard Islamic propaganda based, running from one place to another. Not science. Don't call it science.
Arul,
If you
hadith.
okay, let's put it this way.
What I was
Let's
showing
put it
you,
this
there
way.
were
If you
methods.
used
There were methods to
Abbas,
accept or reject hadith, and the
I
methods
can put
are
it another way,
science.
Abbas. Abbas, I can put it another way. You know what you are calling as science? If you used what you are calling as science to launch a rocket to go to moon, do you know where it would end up in? It could end up also in all sorts of different places because you haven't got a clue about what science is. Systematic, methodical approach to evaluating information that is presented before
Exactly.
you do not know of.
And that's
So
exactly what the science of hadith is.
please,
That's
I'm going to
exactly
stop.
what knowledge and
I'll
ilm
just
of
show you.
hadith is.
I'll just show you the official name of North Korea. Let's do that, and then call it a day. Let's try and see. I'll try and see if someone else wants to come on board to
Yeah, sure,
deal
no
with the
problem. No problem. But I
so,
guess you are
but
not interested in
do
understanding the
you see
science of hadith.
the text here? Do you see the text here, Abbas? North Korea officially the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. Just because North Korea calls it democratic and republic, it does not mean it is either democratic or republic. Doesn't mean that. North Korea, we understand, is neither democratic nor republic. But it calls itself that. Just because you use the term science, Islamic propaganda gangsters use the term science, it does not mean you use science. Doesn't mean that. It only means that you're using the word science.
I understand what you're saying.
I understand
what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean whatever you say doesn't mean that's true. I agree with you, and that's why we have to analyze it.
And then
the same very principle. If you apply on Bible, you have to reject the Bible as well. Because
no.
In the Bible, there are a lot of claims are made. Yes.
I'll be doing live streams on the Bible. Challenge me if you can, Abbas. The Bible is the best attested historical record anywhere.
Oh no!
You be time.
Best,
this is what I find the Bible
best
to be.
Attested historical fabricated.
This is
book.
what I find the Bible to be. You can challenge me if you want to when I do live streams on this.
Very easy.
Today,
no problem. Seriously.
All right,
next week we're doing about that topic. Remember?
Absolutely. So we can. Abbas is going to next Friday. We are going to
deception
through God's grace.
We talk about deception.
Next Friday we said okay.
Next Friday. Yeah.
What's that?
Deception.
About.
With the topic basically is generally speaking, which God is the deceiver, the biblical God or Islamic God?
No, the particular proposition is going to be who is trustworthy. Trustworthy, and that is the proposition. And my proposed proposition is going to be God of the Bible is trustworthy. Islamic Allah is a pathological liar. That's my proposition.
I think at the speaker's corner you were talking about the deceiver. The God of Islam is the deceiver. That's what you were saying, and that's where I challenge you.
Abbas, if you remember the terms I used deliberately. I used the term pathological liar. I used that multiple times. Please check out the recordings.
Pathological liar, deceiver. What's the difference?
Well, why are you arguing then? So,
exactly.
So the point.
What's the difference? So I'm going to make. My claim is that it's the biblical God. That he's the deceiver. That's my claim.
Yeah. Let's try.
Yes.
Islamic Allah, no one can trust because no one knows who he is deceiving by definition. If he is a deceiver of his own accord, no one knows who he is deceiving. Biblical God is a very trustworthy God. He at some stage even says he esteems his word even above his name. A commitment he gives, he keeps. Period. So you can challenge me.
Remember what North Korea says. Remember what North Korea says. Yeah, remember what it means. Yeah, and what it goes opposite. That's exactly the biblical. Whoever is deceiving people saying that to deceive you.
Check it
Remember
out.
that.
Let's
It's your very
deal with
own
that.
rule.
Let's deal
No
with that.
worries.
Abbas,
No
thank
worries.
you.
Thanks very much.
Abbas,
God
thank you. I'm
bless,
looking
and may
forward to that
God guide
debate.
us all. No worries. Definitely.
God's blessings.
We will
God's
call. We will
blessings.
talk before that.
Absolutely. God's blessings
Yeah.
to you, and catch up soon. Is there anyone
To all.
else? Oh, thank you. Good night. Have a good night. Is there anyone else? I know it's quite late. I do apologize about the sound issues we had. That's fine. I hope it was. We had. I was able to hear Abbas properly, but from what it appears, it seems like you guys might not have enjoyed much because you had double sound and whatever. I do apologize about that. Now, is there any other Muslim who wanted to challenge the idea that I can show that to you again? If we don't find someone in the next 5 minutes or so, we can call it a day. So please look at this. Hadiths are collections, or hadith is a collection of supposed sayings of Muhammad involving characters who or events which are not fixed in history. I asked Abbas, how does he know about particular people? Of course, a few people who are quoted in hadiths, you can actually fix in history, a few of them, but not entire chains and so on. And that is why my point isn't hadiths. All of the people who show up in hadiths are not people of history. That's not my point. Hadiths involve characters who events which are not fixed in history. So not historical characters apart from the hadiths themselves talking about these characters or events alone, which avoided even the remote chance of scrutiny in a psychologically and physically coercive environment by brave, qualified, and unbiased people, either by being late or by not being widely circulated. Sahih al-Bukhari was late, and therefore all of the hadiths are late. What is the proof of the fact that all of the hadiths are late? Their own self-confession, isnad, the very need for a chain, right at the start of the books of the hadith. The very need for a chain is a self-confession that there was no first-hand records of anything. They were late, and therefore they avoided scrutiny by being late, or also at times being not widely circulated. Who is a Muslim who is out there who wants to challenge me on these things? You need to explain to me when going through a hadith as to how you find people who are involved in the narration chain of all people who can be historically fixed. Take an example. Take any example of the hadith, any hadith that you agree with, of course. Take any of the hadith and give me the chain and explain to me how you come to the conclusion that all the people in the chain are historically fixed, that you know how exactly their histories were, not from a later source of Tom, Dick, and Harry. A blind can't lead the blind, but historical fixation is very important. And explain to me the historical fixation, and explain to me how their details were scrutinized. Anyone out there who can pitch in? I don't see any further challenge on Operation Stephen channel. I see a few saying hello. I'm begging Abbas says to believe in the hadith. All right. Novarun gives the verdict. If you go through the classes that Islamic gangsters conduct, you may actually learn to be honest. All right. So don't use the word hadith, don't use the word science, just use the word Islamic propaganda. Go through the propaganda and I might make sense according to you. All right. The Muslims invented science. Well, let's do a live stream on what the Muslims invented in relation to science and how much disservice Muslims did towards science. Let's try and investigate that. Abbas, while he was here online, he says he seemed to have said that I think he's referring to the point when I said according to Islam or in the history, the first couple of centuries and later even, but my focus was on the first couple of centuries, that the environment was physically and psychologically coercive. Abbas says that is not the case because Quran, Surah 2, Surah Al-Baqarah 256 says otherwise. No compulsion in religion. I explained to you, Abbas, earlier, just because North Korea calls itself democratic and republic, it doesn't mean it is either one of them. I can go through the details at a later stage. Through God's grace, I'm planning to write mini booklets or booklets. Islam according to the Quran, Muhammad according to the Quran, and so on. And you are going to find, and history, Islamic history according to the Quran. You're going to find out what the Quran itself shows in relation to its early history. You're going to find out that the period in which some of the surahs of Quran, the period at which they were written, clearly involved a very psychologically and physically coercive environment where bloodthirsty people were running around psychologically coercing people into saying, don't you know that there is only one God, Islamic Allah, and don't you know this, don't, how come you side with the Jews, how come you side with the Christians, don't you know, and if you don't, we are about to go and chop people's heads around and so on. So you see all sorts of stuff even in the Quran. We will deal with that later on in a different live stream. Any other person who wants to challenge, please show up. We'll give a few more minutes, and this is the link you have to use, StreamYard. That and I think JC in SOCO and Fred in Revelation 22:13 would have pasted the link somewhere, and I think in Operation Stephen also it should be somewhere in the chat message. Who wants to challenge and say my definition is wrong? Who can say all of the characters referred to in the isnad, in the chain of narration, are fixable in history outside of the Harry Potter hadith world? And that somehow the hadiths were able to be scrutinized apart from the circular logic Abbas gave, erroneous logic that Abbas gave. Is there anyone out there who wants to challenge? In the meantime, Novarun asks, are you a convert Christian? I don't know. Are you asking if I converted to following Jesus Christ? The answer is it depends on what you mean by converted. I don't believe that anyone can be born a Christian. I don't believe so. I was born and in an environment where my mother was a Christian, my father wasn't. There was intense challenge at home, and I became, as my life progressed, through God's grace, I saw dreams and visions, and I saw spectacular things in my life. I saw very close relatives who I don't want to name actually die and come back alive. I know of multiple other situations where um, people who were very close to me heard God audibly. And so along the way, I was convicted and convinced of being a Christian more and more. That's my life story, no Varun. I'm not talking about some silly chanting of the Quran and so on, and just being convinced how musical the Quran is and how obnoxious. And we're not talking about that. I am talking about serious stuff, supernatural stuff, and most important of which I was convinced of and convicted of was of the historicity of the person of Jesus Christ, his life, death, resurrection. Seriously historical, one of the best attested historical reality. All right, we have someone who who has showed up here. Ultimate truth. I think this is someone who already was there. Ultimate truth. Please bear with me for a second. Let me briefly introduce and give you some sort of regulations. You were here before. I remember you said you were from Senegal or somewhere, and you were giving a lecture on how Egypt and this and that and so on without having a clue about Egypt. Ultimate truth, you need to stay on topic. You need to explain to me how you can convince me that the hadith is anything other than what I have displayed here. You need to stay on topic. If you don't stay on topic, I will mute you. You can't go rant on about other stuff. Okay? With that having said, I would add you to the stream. Hello.
What's up? What's up?
By God's grace, I'm fine. How are you doing?
I just want to make sure you're the guy, right? You're the hadith or whatever your name is, right?
I am the what? Come again?
What's your name?
My name is Arul.
Yeah, Arul. Yeah, so you're the one. You look a little like you look a little younger than here than at the speaker's corner. I thought maybe.
What's your name?
What's whose name? My name?
Yeah.
My name is Sheikh Tala.
Sheikh Tala.
Yes.
Did you say Sheikh?
Yes.
Okay, well, Sheikh Tala. Should I trust you that is in fact your name?
That's the name I've been given. Did you choose to be Arul?
Well, I choose to
I'm
be
asking you, say yes or no. You said no running around. Did you choose to be Arul?
Oh, lo. Thank you for the great introduction. Stick to the topic at hand. What is your problem with the definition I've given? Prove me wrong.
I even didn't ask. I even didn't hear your question. Can you repeat that? Because you kind of repeat what you wanted me to answer. The question to which you wanted me to answer.
Okay. Well, I'll show you again. Do you see what I've displayed on the screen?
Yes.
So let me read that to you. The thing I mentioned, I know the definition for people who are brainwashed by Islam, definition of hadith. I've given my definition in reality as I find it according to the evidence which is presented before me. Hadiths are a collection or collections of supposed sayings, there's no way of verifying that these in fact came from Muhammad, supposed sayings of Muhammad and others, involving characters who or events which are not fixed in history. I'm not saying all characters are not fixed in history, but many of them are not fixed in history. No one knows who these people are, apart from fictional works which were written later in time, which avoided even the remote chance of scrutiny by being late. These hadith sources are just were just late. Or even if they were slightly earlier than the 6 canonical works, they were not widely circulated, and therefore no one really would have known about them by any stretch of imagination. That is my definition. In contrast to that, why do you think, if you think this definition is wrong, explain to me by choosing an example. Let's go through an example.
First of all, yes, I think you're wrong. Um, people want to use hadith to implement something, they're smart enough to use names that existed. If I want to lie today about something, I am not going to invent names that do not exist in this time of the. At least I will say Arul said that, Hatun said that, David Wood said that. If I'm talking about people that did not live here years, hundreds of years ago, but they're like, you're a liar. How did you meet this guy? So if people are not dumb, yes, the hadith is a creation. You are not criticizing Islam if you're criticizing the hadith. Hadith is not Islam. That's why you're making your mistakes. Islam is the Quran. So you guys thinking that's why you can do nothing about the Quran. You're criticizing the hadith. You're helping us. The Quran alone follows.
One second. So your point is you don't care about the hadiths because hadith isn't Islam. Is that your point?
No, that's not my no. I said listen to me.
If you do care about the hadiths,
my point is this is the last thing of my point. My point is you are lying if you're saying that those first people are fictional. No, they use them to make their messages go through. They were not allowed to kill people. This is Abu Huraira or this and that. Existing people, known people. They're not fictional. They exist, but they use them. That's why I give you the example of you and David Wood and Sam Shamoon, so you can understand. You're too slow. You're acting like you're smart, but you're kind of slow.
So your point is hadiths are not the actual hadiths are not really actual sayings of Muhammad, but they are pseudo epigraphal. What we call pseudo epigrapha, meaning names were used of people, but the content was cooked up. It's just fantasy, fiction. Is your point?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you an example of a hadith like that. Okay, God is said in the hadith.
Do you agree with my portrayal? You agree? If I understand you right, you are saying the content of the hadiths is not sayings of Muhammad. It's just ideas which were put on his mouth by others.
First, it depends.
Using names of people who might have existed at that time.
First, it depends of what is your extension of a definition of a hadith? Is that anything like Muhammad have wife called Aisha? Is that a hadith, or is it just historical? Or a hadith is, oh, this lady came to him and said, oh, I have fornicated. He said, okay, go back till you get the baby. After she got the baby, she came back. Said, oh, go back. Let him suckle first, and then 2 years later she came back and he had her crucified.
Are you a Sunni Muslim or Shia Muslim?
I told you already. You are slow, bro. I'm a Quran alone Muslim.
You're a Quran only Muslim.
I told you that already. You didn't hear that?
I didn't hear. I do apologize. I don't know how I missed that.
So then don't confuse. If people saying there was a man called Muhammad in Mecca 1400 years ago, you're not gonna find it in the Quran. That we know it's historical. Yes, there was a man called Muhammad 1400 years ago that came to preach to Arabs, telling them, hey, the Jews, God have chosen the Jews among all the people, or God have chosen Mary among all the people. Yes, but you're not gonna find that date and thing in the Quran. But it exists. We know it exists. Now you are talking about specific hadith, like something. If a hadith, like I'll give you one example. Abu Bakr said the day Muhammad said the day Abu Bakr was born, Allah went to the Jannah and looked at the Jannah and said, the first one to be entering Jannah just got born today. Talking about Abu Bakr. Do you get the same hadith about Umar? You got the same hadith about Abu Huraira? You know that's a lie. You know that's fabrication. People try to elevate themselves to some level. Abu Bakr want to elevate himself. Muawiyah want to elevate himself. Everybody want to elevate himself. You find a hadith like Imam Shafi says, it's going to be an imam called Imam Hanifa. If he comes, don't follow him. He's a He's not the Noor. Imam Shafi is a Noor. Imam Malik does the same with the other one. They're all fighting. That's not hadith. That's lie. Wake up. You Christians are criticizing the hadith you're helping us. That's not Islam. That's fabrications.
All
To
right.
create their own laws or to elevate themselves to some level. Criticize the Quran if you can, and I work for you.
Cool. So thank you. Now I do apologize that I missed the fact that you earlier said that you're Quran only. I don't know how I missed that. I do apologize. Now that's good to know. So you reject hadiths. You don't use hadiths as a valid source, which helps us with the topic at hand. You don't agree with the idea that there is a science behind hadiths. So that we are fine. Now let me ask you a simple question. If early Muslims who are part of the Ummah were fabricators, as you agree, why do you think the Quran wasn't fabricated?
The Quran was written in the time of Muhammad. The Quran was up, and 17 or 16 years later, they're talking about Usman rewriting another Quran from the Hafsa Quran or from the other Quran written. It was written. You got the proof it was written. Usman was collecting to put together. Even that I know that's a lie. Usman was creating another Quran, yes, other than the Quran that was revealed to Prophet Muhammad by Allah. But it's not you guys saying you following those Sunni Muslims saying that the Quran has been kept going by memorization. They own had to say it was collected in a book by Usman. Usman got it from writing. So how can it be taught from?
You're not answering my question.
It's written.
I think you're not answering my question. Let me repeat my question.
Repeat your question.
Yeah. If you agree that early Muslims, in this case, the 2nd century Hijri, 3rd century Hijri Muslims, are fabricators, and that was quite an acceptable practice to do at that time, if you agree with that, what gives you the confidence that the Quran itself wasn't a fabrication? Now, are you saying during the time of Muhammad people weren't fabricating? Is that your reasoning?
No. Can you listen? I said because people was writing. Let me give you an example. If you write today, you ask an Arab guy to write salat, the word salat, the prayer. He will never write it with a wow. After the alif, he put after the lam, he put the alif. He said salat, salat, sad lam, alif he. Throughout the Quran, it's written with sad lam wow he instead of alif. Arab don't write like that. The Quran, zakat, kazalik is the same. So when Allah revealed His Quran to Prophet Muhammad had it written, is preserved. How can you corrupt something that is written? You corrupt something that is not written. That's why 300 years later, when Buhari came, he wrote whatever he wanted. That's why he said, you just sold it. In no way somebody can write 700,000, right? How it took him, you said, 100 years to do it. Impossible. He wrote what he wanted and presented to people. Everybody just trying to find the account for him. Just like what happened in the Council of Nicaea in 325 with the Christians. That was our Council of Nicaea.
No. I don't think we have a good facility here to talk about how the Bible came together. If someone were to suggest remotely that it was Council of Nicaea which put the Bible together, wrong. I'm not going to talk about that right now. We'll do different other live streams to talk about the veracity of the historical records, namely the New Testament documents. Later, stay focused. You and I agree the hadith sources are corrupt, pseudo-epigraphical, all sorts of funny writings you don't trust in. I don't trust him. We agree. The question I asked was, given that people were writing all sorts of fantasy things at that time, how come you believe the Quran wasn't subjected to that? And the answer you gave a new answer this time. And the new answer you gave was that the Quran was already written down. How can they corrupt that already written down Quran? I have multiple challenges because today we have manuscriptal evidence for the Quran. There is no such thing called the Quran which was written down by Muhammad or during the time of Muhammad. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. And so I'd like to know what Quran you have in your mind when you
Is
say
there
the
such thing in the
already
Quran?
written down in there. What's that?
Is there such thing in the Quran?
Such a thing, such a what?
Such a thing that Muhammad have written the Quran in his time. Is there something in the Quran proving that?
No, I thought you said that. I thought what you said was
Is
because
there
it
a
was
verse?
already written
I said,
down. How
is there
can
a verse confirming
someone
that? Listen,
No, you
I'm
said
asking you,
one
do
second.
you know
No,
if you don't, if you
let me
don't
make
know
my
the verse?
point. Let me make my point. You tell me where I misheard you. From what I remember from hearing from you, you said, how can someone corrupt what was written down? That's what you said. That's what at least I thought I heard as to what you were saying.
Yes,
Did you
you
say
did.
something else?
Then you said after that, you said there is no proof that anything was really written down in the time of Muhammad, right?
I didn't say anything like that. What I am
That's what
saying
you said.
is, what I am saying
There is
is,
no historical record of something being written, the Quran being written in the time of Muhammad. That's what he said.
what I am saying, please,
Damn.
let me repeat.
Go
What
ahead.
I am saying, is simple. What I am saying is, today there is extant manuscripts of the Quran, extant manuscripts. No, manuscripts we have access to today, multiple of them. All sorts of different manuscripts. Now, if your point is that the Quran wasn't subject to fabrication and so on because it was written down at whatever period. The question is, which manuscript are you talking about? I don't know of a manuscript which is a Quranic manuscript which anyone knows knows for sure that it actually was a Quran that Muhammad used. There's
So
no
I was
such
right.
evidence.
So all them running around, I was right. Yes, that's what you said.
Yeah.
What's your problem, guys?
So
That's what I
answer.
said.
Which Quran do you believe in? If there is no such thing, which Quran do you believe in?
Okay, so you just slow down the future by 5 minutes, man. Let us move on, man. Don't slow down the future, please.
No. Do
Okay.
you believe there was no
Let me-
fabrication with the Quran? How do you believe so? Or why do you believe so?
Okay. My first question to you was, do you know that it is in the Quran that the Quran was written in the time of Muhammad? I can prove you by the Quran a verse, not one, not two, not three verses in the Quran, proving to you that Muhammad was writing the Quran at his time. First, God said, you never wrote any book before this one. First verse.
Wait.
Hold on.
Let's check. No.
Bro, you gotta let me finish.
Let's
You
take a
gotta let
step
me
back.
finish. I'm in a demonstration. Let me finish and then say whatever. I got 3 verses to give you.
Sure.
That's it.
All right, go on. Okay, go on.
Okay. The first verse, God is telling him, you never read or you never wrote writing a book before this one. This is your first book that you're writing. So he wrote the book. One. Second verse. His enemies themselves, they said, oh, this is but dreams he having during the night, and in the morning he wrote them down. So they saw some writings. They're saying that's not from God. It's just dreams he be having, and he's writing it down on the morning. So God is saying Muhammad wrote the Quran. The Arabs, his enemies, are saying Muhammad wrote the Quran. It's just the sources that differ. So they're all confirming that the Quran is being written in the time of Muhammad. Clear. So God is distinguishing between the Quran and the Kitab. If you go to 27, chapter 27,
sorry,
God
I
said,
do apologize. Last minute or so, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, 2 verses to confirm that the Quran is put in a kitab. Tilka ayatil Quran fi kitabin mubin. And the other verse, the reverse, tilka ayatil kitab fi Quranin mubin. So the Quran revelation from Allah will be put in a book in the time of Muhammad. So yes, then the last proof is I can mathematically, base 90, prove to you scientifically, you said 1 minute, I have 20 seconds. I can scientifically prove to you that the Quran is from God, base 19. Right now, right here.
No. No, I'm not asked. That's not the question asked. That's not the question asked. The question that I asked is, how do you know, given the fact that you and I agree already that as part of the Ummah, many people were fabricating things. The question is, how do you know the Quran itself is not a result of fabrication? And there, your point, if I understand you right, what you're saying is you seem to make a point and then run away from it. If I understand you right, the point you're making right now is because the Quran says that it will be written down as a book. I know it will be written down as a book, and therefore, my point simply is, just imagine for a second. We understand the Ummah were fabricators. The Quran was produced in the context of a Ummah. How do you know the initial version of the Ummah, including the verses that you are reading, weren't fabricated stuff?
Okay.
You can't quote the Quran itself to prove that. Yeah.
I was simple. I said, because Prophet Muhammad wrote the Quran, I brought verse, God saying he never wrote a book before this one. I brought another verse. His enemies saying he was just dreaming at night and write them down in the morning. Please, let me answer.
Where do you get this information from?
From the Quran itself.
Which is a fabricated work, in my suggestion to you.
I said for that, for the Quran to be fabricated, Muhammad to be a false prophet, but he the one that wrote it down. So how can he be fabricating a Quran that he sent to transmit himself? I said he wrote the Quran.
So
he said he was fabricated.
In other words, your logic is Muhammad
God said he's going to preserve the Quran.
Therefore, no.
I didn't bring you a verse saying that Usman is going to put the Quran together. I brought a verse saying Muhammad wrote the Quran. You never wrote a book before this one, talking to Muhammad. The Arab saying he wrote it every morning of his dreams. So he's writing. You got the proof that he's writing.
My point simply to you, or my suggestion or commendation simply to you is this. If you and agree that the Ummah are fabricators, I comment to you earnestly, the Quran also should be considered as a fabricated material. Unless
if they wrote the Quran,
solid proof otherwise.
Yes, so, if they would have written, if Muhammad didn't write the Quran, yes. But Muhammad wrote the Quran, broke the proof that Muhammad wrote the Quran.
To find Quran is not somehow exempt. Quran would be exempt only if we can establish the word. But I'm saying if it in itself is actually a fabricated material, clearly it is not a word of God, but fabricated material. I'm not sure if you're speaking right now.
Can you hear me?
The line is bad, or maybe I don't know.
It should be good now. It should be
good. I do apologize. I couldn't hear anything in the last minute from you.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I was saying is, If the
Okay, go on.
Quran was not written by Prophet Muhammad, yes, you're right. It would have been corruption. You're right. They're not trustworthy. You're right. If there was no Quran written by Prophet Muhammad, absolutely it's gonna be corruption. That's why the first Quran they put together, the Quran of Usman, that's where the first corruption started. You understand?
I'm really sorry. I didn't hear anything from you. You have
Oh
to
my God.
repeat.
Can you hear me?
I didn't hear anything from you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you briefly, and then when you speak, when you begin speaking longer statements, I don't hear you anymore. I do
What
apologize. I don't know where the
do I need to
problem
get off
is.
and come back
Go
up?
on. Let's try again.
All right.
All right. While we wait for him to join, anyone else who would like to, um, I forget his name, Sheikh someone, brother. I do apologize. The gentleman who joined us, who was with us until a minute ago, he suggests, he agrees that the hadiths are fabricated works. And like he rightly pointed out, that there's every indication that the Quran might have been written down according to the Quran itself and actually according to the hadiths themselves also. Sahih al-Bukhari actually goes on to suggest that by the end of the life of Muhammad, the Quran should have been a written down book already. There are hadiths to suggest that from Sahih al-Bukhari. And so the hadith sources are self-contradictory on multiple levels and therefore unreliable, let alone the fact that this idea of science of the hadiths is just a fantasy, Harry Potter. Okay, anyone else who is a Muslim who wants to suggest to us, despite the evidence provided so far, that the hadith somehow are produced based on some solid science, please join us. The link, StreamYard link, should be available already in the chat rooms. And in the meantime, of course, Christmas is coming up. The much more than the day, much more than many of the minor details. The greater theological point is Jesus came with a particular purpose. Jesus prophesied, destroy this temple and I will build it up in 3 days. As far as I know, there's only one person who was born with a mission to die even before he was born, and that is Jesus Christ. He is clearly presented as deity, God, according to the Bible. And he came with a reason, and that is to do what needs to be done to make forgiveness of sin available for you and for me. So as a Christian, I'd really like to, as we wait for this minus quick hand, in the meantime, I'd like to suggest to you, Jesus Christ is the best attested person on the face of the earth. His crucifixion, burial, resurrection are some of the best attested historical events, not just by Christians, by others also. The case for crucifixion is straightforward. The case for resurrection is slightly more complex, yet some of the best attested historical events. The New Testament, the merit of the New Testament, the veracity of the New Testament sits on top of the strong foundation of the crucifixion, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. I invite you all to explore Jesus Christ in great detail and for salvation. There are a couple of questions that asked, he is saying, why would God spend 80 years working with Moses, revealing the Torah, and then change it with Muhammad? Very valid question to ask. As a matter of fact, there are more questions and challenges along this line. To consider that anything was needed on top of the New Testament is ridiculous. So Islam is just someone who came in to take a place which was never vacant to begin with. All right, we have someone who has joined me live. Let me get that person here.
That's me. That's me. That's still me.
Verite, French.
That's
Hello.
the ultimate. That's the ultimate truth.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you the same?
Yes, I am.
Remind me your name again.
Ultimate truth.
Say something.
Ultimate truth.
Yeah. Al-Haq. Yeah, please go on.
So can you hear me now? Good. Is it clear?
So far, it seems good. Yeah.
Okay. I said yes. Okay. If Prophet Muhammad did not write the Quran, if the Quran was written just like Buhari, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years later, yes, it would have been a lot of corruption. Still, they found a way to make it some hafs and wash al duri al kisa. Not major things, but still some differences when it comes to letters. And sometimes some meaning, deep meaning. Instead of a big sin or a lot of sins, or sometimes you got kill them, they got killed, or they got fighting and killing is different. It's not a big deal. God showed us in the Quran, the same book you're reading, he said, make one like this one. It's coded 19. Because chapter 74, verse 30, God is telling you that his book is coded 19. One example I'm going to give you. One example. You can verify it yourself. Take the Quran. Take the Hafs Quran. The Hafs.
Go on.
When it comes to, and write down, go to chapter number 1. You write down 1. You said how many verses in it? You said 7. Followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you write down 2. That's a Baqarah. How many verses? 286. Write down 1 to 286. Go like that for every chapter to the last chapter, 114. Write down 114. Followed how many verses on it? 6. Followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 10 digits. That's a billion. This is a 12,000. 692 digit number. It's a multiple of 19. This means if the Quran was missing one chapter, the whole thing is gone. You put 113 chapters or 115 chapters or 111 chapters, it's messed up. If you would have changed Fatiha, put 8 verses or 6 verses, or if you would have put Fatiha before, Baqarah before Fatiha, it's all messed up. This means the chapter numbers are exact, and the verses inside those chapters are exact. God said, Alayha Tisata Ashara. 19 is a verifier that this Quran is from God. So I can prove it to you. This is nothing compared to how many miracles I can prove to you that this is from God. Now, how can you put these together? Have a 12,692 digit number.
No. Wait a second. Wait. Yeah, so far you were engaged. Now you're talking absolute nonsense. That's what you're doing. I couldn't care less. I really could not care less. I can show you things which have better mathematical patterns to it. Better mathematical patterns. If that is the measure you want to use, I can show you all sorts of better mathematical patterns. I don't know if you're aware of encryption algorithms, decryption algorithms, all sorts of different things exist. Let's not get into silly ideas there. My point simply is, if the Quran, if the early Ummah are fabricators, how do you know Quran is not fabricated? I haven't heard anything sensible from you as an answer to that yet. All that I heard so far is that even by the time of Muhammad, the book already existed, and therefore it could not have been corrupted later on. That's what I heard. My point simply was, I don't even know if a person called Muhammad existed. Don't even know. Even with all the hadiths included, I still doubt that very much. Islamic Muhammad, I don't think existed in the way Islam proposes his existence to be. Bearing that in mind, I see the Quran to be a work of fabrication on multiple levels. We're going to do live streams on that. You might be aware of information that Mel is bringing up. You might be aware of the fact of the plagiarism of all sorts, the loan words from various different languages and so on. So we'll get on to that later. I do not see, I'll give you one last chance. I do not see a reason why you would suggest the Quran could not have been fabricated after agreeing the early Ummah are fabricators.
You have carbon dated sources of the Quran dated 2 years after the death of the Prophet, 634. 632, the Prophet passed away. I'm talking about the manuscripts that are in your thing in England. I care less about that.
Birmingham.
I care less. It's just for you. I care less about that. I got to prove. Because my car.
Birmingham is a perfect example of Quranic corruption.
Let me finish. You said last thing. Let me just tell you why. Bro, you can do like that.
Go on.
I don't cut you off. You asked me a question. You said, bro, last chance for me. Let me have my last chance.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go on. Last chance. Go
yes. On. You are denying a miracle, visual miracle, challenge 19 of Allah in the Quran. You're running from it. You say everybody can do that. That's fine. I am telling you, the Quran is not written by the Arabs, those people you're talking about, who wrote the Hadiths. Bukhari never wrote the Quran. Muslim never wrote the Quran. The Quran been written in the time of Muhammad, so it's not orally preserved. God said, I am the one who revealed it. I will be protecting it from corruption. So, you come to videos.
Where did you get the information from?
What information? What information?
You are suggesting that God said that. You are suggesting that God said that the Quran won't be corrupt. Where are you getting the information from? From a corrupted book. I am suggesting to you that the Quran is a fabrication. How can you use a fabricated source to suggest that it is not fabricated purely because it says I can't fabricate?
God made a challenge to you. Can you hear me? God made a challenge. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go on. Sorry, I'm hearing you now.
God made a challenge to you Christians to write a Quran like his Quran, to like one chapter like his chapters, 10 chapters like his chapters. You can't. So go try to do that.
Have you read the Bible yourself?
I read the Bible, a million contradictions. When did Mary Magdalene go to the tomb? Was it at dawn? Was it just before sunrise? Or was it after sunrise? 3 accounts of 3 disciples, all different. How did he find the tomb? Was it wide open? Was it an angel that descended and rolled the door open? Or did they find a little boy in there? Who went in there with her? Did she go alone? Did she go with the?
I can get into explaining all those contradictions that you think are contradictions.
What do you mean you think?
I do not the Bible. No, the Bible. I've done my research properly. The Bible has no contradiction. The contents of the Bible are accurate. No problem at all. We'll get into that discussion later on. But the point I like to make right now is God of the Bible is not a God who gives you ideas such as or produce something like this. This is not God of the Bible. So Islamic Allah, in suggesting that you should create something like the Quran for as a proof that the Quran is from him, the inimitability, it's a silly challenge. It's erroneous on multiple levels. And also the fact that there were people who produced stuff like that. Even the devil did that according to the satanic verses. So all sorts of things are things that need to be discussed. But let's leave that behind. I haven't heard a proper consolidated explanation from you as to why the Quran could not be a corrupted work. But I do thank you for coming online, because we agreed on the fact that the hadith sources, the hadiths are just fabricated stories. God knows how much of it is fabricated, but you and I at least agree that overall the hadiths are fabricated sources because of its late origin, and because of the fact that no one could have corroborated it. And like you rightly said, names could have been used. God knows what was happening there. But thank you very much for joining. Pleasure having you on board. Thank you. Is there? Did you want to say anything else? Just by way of saying goodbye.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, we agree. Yes, me and you agree. The hadith sources, the laws in the hadith are first. You gotta first, if you're doing a study, do it deeply. First, show that you as a Christian that the laws in the hadith are contradicting the laws in the Quran. Make sure you say that first, right? In the hadith, there's no
the laws in the Quran also contradicts the laws in the Bible.
We're not talking. You said you don't want to talk about the Bible. Now you want to go to the Bible. the laws of the Bible contradict themselves.
I don't.
Arul, come on now. You're not setting the rules. You're not violating the rules, man. You said no Bible, man. No Bible,
No,
man.
the rule. What I asked you was if you wanted to say goodbye. That's what I asked you.
Okay, but you're taking me in now. All I'm saying is, my goodbye is, just study properly. Show that yes, the hadiths are fabrication. Show that yes, the hadiths are contradicting the Quran. Show that the hadiths are perversions. Just like whatever I used to see in my Bible as perversion, kill the kids, force people, kill the fornicators. I see it in the hadith. When I read the hadith, I feel like I'm reading the Old Testament. Same. They brought all the Old Testament laws.
Are you serious? What are you talking about? The
when
Bible,
I read the hadith,
the morality of
Old Testament. Kill the apostate.
The morality of the Bible is impeccable.
Kill the fornicators.
Absolutely
kill the children.
Challenge you. I challenge you.
Rape women.
We can go through this in detail later. The morality of the God Bible is impeccable. Thank you very much. Now you're hijacking the conversation to something else. God of the Bible, impeccable, absolutely phenomenal. But thank you very much.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Okay. Of course, things are a bit late here in London. Perhaps, I do apologize. There seems to be multiple people complaining about the echo and so on. I don't know if that's because of something that I have done wrong in my setup here, or if that's because of the people who joined us live. Not sure. we'll get some expert opinion from someone later. I do apologize. I think it'll take a few iterations to get the technology working properly, and hopefully our audio and video could improve in the future. All right. What I would say is, I think sort of we can wrap up soonish, unless there is a burning challenge from someone else who wants to come online at the count of 10 in my mind. I think sort of we'll wrap up there. Let's see. If there is someone with a burning challenge against the definition I gave in regards to the hadith, come online and let's deal with that. It's a bit late where I am, and so maybe it's a bit easier for you. But through God's grace, we care about the truth. Please come online if there's a burning challenge, and if no one wants to come challenge in the next few minutes, we will call it a day. Beanie says, the Lord bless you. Thank you very much. All right. Perhaps there is no one joining at this present time, and online for just less than 4 hours now. So just to reiterate, I close, I think, what are hadiths? Collection of supposed sayings. There's no way of verifying that actually Muhammad was even a historical person. The Muhammad as how Islam portrays him. I don't know if there was a guy called Muhammad who lived around the time of Islam, but Muhammad as projected by Islamic tradition could not be established to be a historical Muhammad. Supposed sayings of Muhammad involving characters who or events which are not fixed in history or by not widely circulated. My dear friends, if you are a Muslim, it's high time you stop believing that there is something like science that goes behind the hadiths. God knows who put the hadiths together, and God knows where it came from, and God knows they are which ones of imagination. There's no way of verifying if they were anything that are remotely historical. Thank you very much for joining with me today. God's richest blessings to you, and hope to catch up with you next week through God's grace. God's blessings. Bye.